Welcome back to Sweet Science Boxing and MMA here in Hawthorne, California. I'm Chris, your boxing enthusiast, and with me, as always, is my very good friend, professional boxing coach and insider, creator, owner of Sweet Science Boxing and MMA, Coach Marco Trejo.
What up?
What's going on, Coach?
Oh, man, fights all weekend long.
Long day of boxing.
Watching them, participating in them. Boxing life.
Boxing life. Speaking of boxing life.
We got a guest.
Yeah, go for it.
Introduce yourself.
All right.
That's a
Davon
new one.
Mclaughlin, first time here. Can I say that I'm a little nervous?
Yeah, you could say that.
It's live.
Is
so
it technically your first time here? It's your first time on the show, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not my first time here.
It's not your first time here, though. You've been part of the live studio audience before.
That is right, and I've also been part of the live YouTube audience.
Yeah, I
guess, yeah.
And you're here because you are pretty much a boxing, analyst?
Pretty much.
Ooh, I like the way that sounds. Yes.
Pretty much a boxing analyst.
I just broke into the industry.
Broke
Nice.
into the industry as a writer for Supreme Boxing.
That is correct, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
How are you? You're digging it, right?
I'm digging it. I'm loving it. That's why I came out here to LA. So it happened a lot faster than I expected it to. So
Where did you come from?
I came from Denver.
Okay.
So quick, I got out of the Air Force, and I was just sitting in Denver getting fat. But, boxing was always a constant, my whole life. So I was like, you know what? I just want to get closer to it because this was my plan. I wanted to break into it and whatever, some capacity, media, writer, whatever. And it happened kind of on accident, I guess, because I frequent the online forums.
Okay.
And Anthony Stacks. Yeah, so I made
What up, Stacks?
Veteran guest.
Let's see, it was after the Kovalev fight, and Anthony commented in my forum, and he said, hey, I just talked to Kovalev, and I was like, all right, who is this guy?
Yeah, Anthony's a name dropper.
He's a
If you're watching,
big-time
man.
name dropper.
Anthony just drops the names.
And I wanted to call him out. I was like, this guy, no, he didn't. He didn't talk to Kovalev. So I looked at his profile.
He probably did, though.
And he probably did. So it said, writer, all this, and all his credentials up on his Facebook, and he had all the pictures with fighters, and I was like, all right, maybe he did. Maybe he did talk to him. So I just sent him a message. I was like, hey, man, I moved out here. I'm looking to get into this industry. Like, what do you suggest? Give me some tips. And he gave me a bunch. I didn't expect him to respond, but he did. And he said, hey, we're shooting a podcast tomorrow, which was this podcast.
Nice.
And, he just asked me. He said, hey, man, who have you written for? And no one.
You didn't make anything up? Aren't you supposed to lie?
Truth, honesty is my policy.
I'm just messing around.
I thought about it, but no, I didn't lie. I just told him, I haven't at all. So he said, all right, well, write me something on the Kovalev fight, and I'll shop it out to see who needs interns. So I gave it to him, and he said, you know what, man, it's really good. Can you write me something else? So I did, and he said, I want to bring you into Supreme, and that's it.
That's
The
all
rest
she
is
wrote?
history.
Nice.
So I saw something you mentioned. You said, I just got out of the Air Force, and I was sitting around getting fat. You had posted basically a body
I
transformation.
seen that.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
I said that the other day.
That's a proper body transformation,
was.
too.
Yeah.
You're looking fit,
What happened?
man.
It was 100 pounds. Yeah, I just.
Whoa.
Good for you, man.
Congratulations, dude.
Once you get out of the Air Force, you don't have to work out. You don't have to do anything.
You mean you don't have to work out when you're in it?
Well,
Is
it's
it
the
the
Air
other
Force.
way around?
But
Chair
yeah,
Force.
I stopped working out. I stopped doing everything. I started, I had a bunch of money saved up, so I was living in Colorado and doing nothing, waking up, playing video games. If there was a fight, I'd watch the fight. But other than that, I was just living off my savings, doing
That sounds
nothing.
like life.
It was great. Then I ran out of money, and then I was fat. So then I was like, you know what? I need to change something. So I just started looking into, nutrition and fitness and stuff. And I guess it started happening. And food, nutrition, it just changed my life. So that's actually what I'm studying now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
I'm looking to be a nutritionist or a dietitian. And the end game is to do, boxing, fighters. So it breaks my heart when I see guys miss weight and lose a title on the scales,
Yeah.
Because you could have just hired a nutritionist. You could have. David Hay has one, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mayweather has one.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of cats do.
Well,
but
we've talked
yeah.
about that
Yeah, we
before.
did.
How it's kind of a little bit of luxury.
A
Yeah,
luxury to
and,
have
but it's
nutrition.
becoming more common because I think it's important and it's been proven successful with the guys that have it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's a luxury, but at some point, it's if you're having that much trouble making
Yeah.
weight, like you got to do something, right? I mean, it broke my heart to see JoJo miss his weight.
Yeah.
Or just anybody, really. It's just not necessary. Unless you're fighting in the right way. Like, if you're fighting in the wrong weight class, just move up or whatever. But you should
Move
never lose a title on the scales.
Yeah, it's always disappointing for everybody.
Gervonta Davis, he lost the title on the scales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have used Floyd's nutritionist.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Floyd don't like him that much now.
yeah, not anymore. Huh? He's getting the Broner treatment.
Yeah.
The Brown.
He's got worse than that, man. He's just sitting on the shelf collecting
Well,
dust.
Waiting for Garcia to fight him, right? That's
Who, Broner?
Anybody.
no.
Davis. Oh,
supposedly.
okay. Yeah,
That's- But
yeah.
Garcia's not ready.
No, he's not. He's not ready.
I don't. Yeah, I put that
Who,
out there.
Mikey or Ryan?
Ryan.
Ryan Garcia.
I mean, do you guys think?
No.
No chance. Right?
No,
he's not
not
ready.
ready.
He's not ready to fight a lot of people.
'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like Carlos kind of rocked him. So
Carlos, they're fortunate that fight was only as many rounds as it was and didn't continue to go on because Carlos really came on in the last 4
yeah, I
rounds
think
and was.
2 more rounds and he would have lost that
yeah,
fight. 'cause
exactly.
It was
He was-
already a draw.
Yeah, so, I mean, now, that's sort of what I think everyone saw, but the judges' scorecards are different.
Yes,
so
the judges.
really, the judges at the end of the day probably still would have resulted. I think one of the judges had it extremely wide for Ryan in
Yeah.
that fight. So,
Which he addressed. He said, yeah, it was a little closer than that.
yeah, even Ryan said it was
Yeah,
closer
so
than
you
that.
know
Yeah.
there was some funny business.
Even
but
Ryan said it was closer than that.
That's called the golden ticket.
the golden, yeah.
I read that on a.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that on the
YouTube
comment.
post.
Speaking of the golden ticket, coach.
What's that? Charlie and Chocolate Factory?
Yeah.
No.
No, well, we're talking about your guy, right? Michael?
Yeah, we had a guy fight. Well, he trains at this gym. His dad trains him. Really strong kid. Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
And that's his actual name.
He's very busy this time of month.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone came out dressed like that on the.
Yeah, on the card. I thought that was funny.
On the top rank card?
Yeah, yesterday the Crawford fight. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Somebody. Who was it?
Dude,
Is it?
let me pull it up.
Yeah, I feel like he missed
a.
a,
Is it Carlos guy or no? Or the Joshua guy? I don't know.
No.
No,
But
no.
the dude always comes out like last time he came out like Show Enough, and that was probably the
That's
best
pretty
costume
awesome.
ever. You guys you're familiar with Show
The
Enough?
Shogun of Harlem.
what was that? Enter the Dragon or something? The
It's,
Dragon?
The Last
yeah,
Dragon.
Barry
The
Gordy's Last Dragon.
Enter the Dragon. That's Bruce Lee,
1984,
right?
85.
Yeah.
something.
Enter the Dragon is Bruce Lee. Yeah, Barry Gordy's
Yes.
Last Dragon. But the dude came out as Show Enough with the full wig and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Who's the
But,
master?
but this, yeah, exactly.
No, that was a
Kiss my
excellent movie.
Converse.
Yeah.
But no, this time they came out as Michael Myers. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but anyways, Michael Myers, he was the opening fight for the card at the Belasco Theater on Friday, and he was going into the fight 2-0. He said he was nervous before the fight. It was the biggest venue he'd ever fought at, so I think that contributed a little bit to his performance. But he went up against what's the guy's name?
David Mijares.
Yeah, David Mijares, who's
4-0.
yeah, it was 4-0. He's a pretty well-known boxer in Southern California as far as his amateur background. And, I remember when he signed with Golden Boy a few years back. So he was a favorite anyways. Michael came out swinging hard, dropped Mijares in the first round, like in the first 20,
did.
30 seconds.
That was the first punch. It was a
Yeah,
wicked overhand. He missed, but it was
Yeah, so he
Bad
dropped him, and then landed a few hard shots in the fight. Actually, several hard shots in the fight. I heard that he broke his nose in like the 4th round, but I don't think he did. I just know the guy was bleeding all over the place in round 4. The doctors took a good long look at him after the fight. Anyways, Mike landed the more significant power shots, and Mijares won the fight, I think, on the jabs. But it was.
But we know that's not possible.
Yeah, it's not possible. If you're Triple G, it's not possible. But if you're somebody else, maybe. So he won the fight off the jabs, but he was surviving the whole night, and I give it to him. I think he won just throwing the jabs, and Mike was missing a lot of those big shots. But it was a tough pill to swallow just because of that knockdown in the first round, and then how strong I thought we finished in the 4th round. But it was only a 4-round fight, so I mean you don't really have a lot of time to make mistakes and and kind of establish your strength and your cardio and have all that stuff kind of come into play. So, but it happens.
So we do know now that you can win with jabs
You
alone.
can. you can do it.
and
For
in
sure.
survival mode, and I mean moving backwards too, because I mean he was running from.
Yeah, he
from-
was boxing going backwards the whole time. So I mean, sometimes judges, sometimes they want you putting the pressure on, and they think, oh, if you're dictating the pace by moving forward and putting pressure, then that makes you, the aggressor, and it looks like you're winning. Sometimes they don't care if you're doing that or not.
Yeah. So
Should they? Should they care if you're moving forward or not? There's a right answer to this question, by the way.
Okay.
Should they care?
I mean, I think they should, because I mean, not every fighter wins fights moving forward, right? I mean, not everyone boxes that way. There's a lot of guys
So
that
should a
box.
judge care if you're moving forward or not?
I think, like you said, that it depends on the boxer, because I mean, Triple G always moves forward, right? But when he fought Canelo,
Yeah.
not so much.
What do you think, Coach? Should a judge care if you're moving forward or not?
If you're landing your shots, yeah.
Boom. Okay. All right. I'm going.
If you're
there you
moving
go.
forward and eating stuff because you got a good chin,
Yeah.
then
not
What
so
matters
much.
is like aggression in and of itself is not a scoring criteria.
Yeah.
Nobody gets points for walking forward. You get points for walking forward and being effective.
Yeah.
Right. You have to walk forward and do damage. That would be effective.
and some
aggression.
guys are amazing at
Which, for the
counter
record-
punching and walking backwards and fighting.
Exactly.
Some guys are great. At
Yeah,
that.
it just drives me nuts because a lot of times you hear people, particularly like on the unofficial scorecard, sometimes you'll have people chime in on why he was moving forward, he was doing that. There's nothing that says you get points for moving forward.
Or you
There's
just
no-
walk
yeah.
forward and take shots all fight.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Win the fight.
Just walk forward and eat shots, like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
But
But-
I think if you're landing, if you're landing significant
Yeah.
shots and it looks like the guy's hurt and you got him on the ropes and you land some shots, yeah.
Sure, but I think the point is if you're landing significant shots moving in any direction, right?
Yeah,
so like
absolutely.
if I'm
You're
moving
right.
backwards and landing significant shots, that's what matters. If I'm moving forward and landing significant shots, that's what matters. What always matters is the part where you're landing
Yeah, it
significant
doesn't matter.
shots.
Yeah, it doesn't
doesn't
matter
matter
what
what
direction.
direction you
Yeah,
move it.
exactly.
Well, that's the other thing too, because I mean, I feel like Mijares,
Judges.
I'll say he was the better boxer. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So-
I agreed with that.
He landed the majority of the jabs, whether or not they were, strong jabs or
Yeah.
effective jabs. Who knows, right? I didn't feel them, but they didn't seem like they had a whole lot on them. But he threw them and landed them
Yeah.
for all 4 rounds, and I
Yeah.
think that's what they scored. Because, I mean, the judges are right next to the ring. They can hear whose shots hurt more.
Yeah, and you could hear Mike's shots from the second level of seats because they were
Yeah,
strong.
they were.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges a judge actually has. So when you have one contestant who is very efficiently using a jab and another one who is efficiently using power punches, just not very regularly using power punches, right? So what happens is you end up with guys who, and I don't know that that was the case with this fight, but you see it a lot as a dilemma for judges. They have to weigh what's worth more. Is 10 jabs worth 4 power punches? Is like, what's the ratio of jabs to power punches that makes it count? Because in fights where a guy lands 3 or 4 power punches in a round, so a couple every minute, maybe he gets 2 every minute, but the whole rest of the round he's getting jabbed, it's actually really difficult to gauge who is supposed to win that round if you're not seeing visible damage on either fighter, or if no fighter is reacting in a way that they're being hurt.
I mean, I'm in the who would you rather be camp.
Yeah, so am I.
And
So
that's,
am I.
I think
But
that's
it's
the
hard
most
to judge,
effective way
though.
to judge.
It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to tell who you would rather be in a round, right?
Yeah.
You look at it and you're like, I don't know. Would I rather eaten those
40
40
jabs?
jabs or those 8 to 10 power shots?
I would have
Like, I
rather
don't
been
really know.
Mike. I would have rather been Mike Myers
There
in
you
this
go.
fight.
Me too.
I wouldn't want to get hit with
Yeah,
those.
I mean, he wasn't bleeding. He didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he
No.
was probably tired, but that's it.
Yeah, the other guy was bleeding. His mouth was bleeding. Nose was bleeding.
I never got to see him after the fight. He's probably the only guy that didn't come out of the
Yeah.
locker room. So maybe he did
No,
break his nose.
yeah, the doctor took a good long look. I heard that he did go to the hospital for a checkup after. So, I mean, maybe to check out if his nose was actually broken. Yeah.
So this was at Belasco Theater.
Yeah.
in
So I mean,
Los
how would you
Angeles.
feel like about a rematch, or would you rather?
Yeah, I'd love a rematch. I just need to get him in the gym more to work on those jabs. 1-2s, changing level on the jab to the body, jab to the head, and some head movement to set up some counters. Because he was throwing hooks, like lead hooks, which is not good.
Yeah, and
you don't want to
overhand
lead.
rights.
You don't want to lead with your hook.
It works for
For the
Rocky.
record, if he's listening, I thought he did a good job, but he definitely could have jabbed more.
Well, I think Michael only had 4 amateur fights, and I think Mijares had probably over 100, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's just fast tracked to the pros.
Yeah. I mean, he started kind of late, and so he's missing some of those. I don't know, some of those basics. He's got the power. He's got great hooks, but you got to have the basics down. You got to be able to do the basics, perfectly. 1-2, a jab.
Yeah.
That gets you far. Obviously, we saw. But what I wanted to say is, lots of fans, and the head matchmaker for Golden Boy was giving him compliments after the fight and said, "You're more than welcome to come back and fight anytime at Belasco," which was weird, but we'll take that.
Well, I mean, that might be the best thing they can come of it.
I think
Because
so.
I think Golden Boy, I've noticed, if you do really good against one of their guys or beat them and don't get the decision, they always bring you back.
Yeah.
Right?
But against who, though?
Yeah, it depends. Because what was the guy that fought Aaron McKenna, right? Mendeville. He fought Caribbean, so they brought him back.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, if you do good, if you give them a tough time, they at least bring you back. Whether or not, they just feed
To
you
fight
to
somebody
their fighters.
harder.
Yeah, but they bring you back. So, I mean, you'll get paid again.
But I will say, I mean, for that card, Belasco does put on some good shows. Golden Boy does. It's obviously a lot of the local guys filling that place up. Out of the whole card, that fight lasted the distance. Every other fight was over in the first round.
There was
like,
one more that went the
one
distance.
more?
But, yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
nearly as
Well,
exciting.
yeah, most of them were over, though. The ones that did end quick ended really fast.
Really
I'm
quick.
talking like 20, 30 seconds, no more than a minute.
There were a lot of quick knockouts last night, actually. I mean, or this weekend, I should say. This weekend. A lot of the fights on the undercards, all that stuff, Thompson's fights, a lot of things were going on that were
Yeah, it's just like
quick
in fighting
knockouts.
in general, because I think Bellator had like the fastest knockout in
Yeah.
Oh, really?
what was it, 6 seconds or
Yeah. But, I mean, at the same time, in boxing, a lot of the times, right, it's someone who has a winning record taking on someone who is supposed to be, the opponent and serve as a building block or a stepping stone in their career. So a lot of times you could make the argument that the reason that there's so many quick knockouts, particularly on the lower undercards on some of the smaller shows, is because there's a clear A side and then
a big mismatch.
a big mismatch.
But how do you expect as a promoter to sell tickets? I mean, when you're in those smaller shows as a fighter coming up, they want you to sell tickets. It's kind of an obligation. You have to bring a crowd with you, and you are the A side. You are expected to knock somebody out. I mean, the business of it is that you do get to pick your opponents at most of the time. They want to give you somebody that's a little bit of a challenge, but what does it serve the fighter to knock somebody out in 30 seconds? And what does it serve boxing? What does it serve the promotion?
I mean, the promotion, I think, benefits from it. I think they're happy with it because I feel like
fans like knockouts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the majority of the people at the Belasco last night, I'm sure, were stoked,
They were all drunk.
thrilled. Yeah. They want to see a knockout. I'm sure the
Fans like
decisions
knockouts,
were
yeah.
what they didn't like.
Yeah, so a lot of times fans here, particularly in California, you watch guys just have a feeling out round. Just say they take round one to just sort of feel each other out and do some stuff. You're
Start
getting
getting
rained
boos.
on with boons.
Yeah,
in LA.
they boo quick.
Yeah.
So I think that fans do like knockouts. They can appreciate knockouts.
I think it's the guys like us that are watching for, decisions to see a guy's whole tool set.
Yeah.
Because we're going to watch their next fight and their next fight. Where these guys, they might have just, there's boxing at the Belasco.
Yeah.
Let's go see someone get knocked out.
In terms of how it benefits the fighter, the only thing I can think of is if you're a young fighter early on in your career, the first is probably confidence building. Even if you had strong amateur pedigree, you're coming from a place where it's, like you were saying last week, it's different, right? It's different. You have to get a feel for it. Obviously they compete without the headgear now, but the gloves, everything, the rounds, it's all different. So the only thing I can think of is early on it helps you build confidence. But once you get to the place where you're like 8-0, 9-0, and you're knocking out dudes who are like, 7-15,
6 and 8.
like 6.
Well, I feel like it
I'm not
also
really sure about
at
that.
the beginning builds a following, because I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
these
true.
guys that we had Friday, most of their following's probably here because they were all fighting in their hometown. They're
Yeah.
all LA guys.
Yeah, they're all LA dudes.
Except
So-
for Acevedo, he's from Kansas,
Is
but
it-
he does
but
train
he does
at
train a wild card.
yeah.
Do they do
at,
boxing in
Westside
Kansas?
Boxing.
West Side. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
I
do
think
they do boxing in Kansas though?
I think they grow corn or something.
Well, I think if you're good in Kansas, you leave Kansas.
You leave Kansas to come to LA, right?
Kid's good though. I'm not gonna lie.
He was. Yeah, that was impressive.
He's a beast, man. I've seen him spar. He's been here a bunch of times. He's got really good size for his weight class, and he's just.
His opponent gave up pretty quick after he felt the first one. He even did like the pretend, oh, I got knocked out, but wait, he was done.
But the other side of that is, yeah, I mean these guys are all signed or they're very close to being signed with management or with Golden Boy, and yeah, I mean they're fighters that are being invested in. The other side is people take their fighters to Mexico and kind of do the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
And I think that's even. I don't want to say worse, but that could hurt the fighter even more because, well, some of those guys in Mexico are as quick as these fights were at Belasco, like a minute knockout. I mean, those fights in Mexico can be even worse.
Yeah. So 2 things. Yeah, Mexico.
And it's a little.
I don't know about
too.
everywhere. It is a little shady. There's no commission down there, right?
Yeah. They could switch the fighter out on you before on the way in.
Yeah, I was in Mexico watching some fights, and the fighters would show up, walk to the back, wrap their hands, and come back outside with their hands wrapped. No one signing them, no one checking them.
Oh, wow.
So they're just walking around in the parking lot with their hand wraps that they probably did themselves. And, I mean, God knows, I mean, you, if you wanted to, could do whatever you wanted, right? Like,
Yeah,
if
definitely.
no one's going to check your wraps, I mean, who's to say you're not going downstairs and...
Yeah, I've heard actually rumblings that certain sanctioning bodies are going to stop crediting fights that take place specifically in Tijuana. Yeah.
That's where I was.
Yeah. So specific, not all of Mexico, but it's specifically in Tijuana.
Because, I mean, good fighters obviously come out of there.
Sure.
So, okay, my question is then...
Terrible, Munguia, there's a lot of dudes from Tijuana.
Yeah, Burchell, he's from Cancun. I don't know. There might be a sanctioning body there, but
yeah.
Either way. So when do you want the quality opposition then? Because you said 8-0, 10-0. After that, like, because you don't want to throw them into the deep water, right? Because then you're losing your investment if they get...
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you mean by the deep water, though, right? Like, a lot of times you see guys, they're 8-0. They're not fighting guys who have winning records, right? Or they're fighting guys who still have, just a huge deficiency in some way or another, like...
So do you gradually step it up, or when do you judge, like, when is a guy ready, you know?
Well, I've said this before. I do think the intention is to gradually step it up. The problem is that in today's boxing market, I feel like the O is overvalued compared to in the past, right? So getting the loss means more today than I feel like it did when I was younger.
I agree. Ever since, I mean, the Floyd Mayweather era, we'll call it.
Exactly.
Once you have a 1, you're, damaged goods. If you get a 2 or a 3...
Yeah, exactly. So
Adrian Broner is, I think, a beautiful example of that. All the hype around him until he lost, and then every time he's lost after that, I mean, people care less and less to the point where, I mean, did he ever fight on pay-per-view? No, right?
No, but there's a chance he will coming up here. So
maybe, yeah.
But I also think that Broner is a little bit different because by the time he lost, he had made it to multiple titles and had built a following. So what I mean by that is Broner, whether it's because people like him or hate him, gets fans. So people like Broner as an opponent. It's one of the reasons why someone like Manny Pacquiao thinks, I want to beat Adrian Broner. It's one, because he can probably beat him, or I want to fight Adrian Broner. One, because he can probably beat him. But 2 is because he brings an audience with him, right? So
that's true. People will always watch a Broner.
Yeah, so like people will watch it, if not just to see him get beat up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that Broner's a little bit different. What up, Daniel? Daniel's on right now, by the way.
Can we see him
Nice.
up there? Yeah. Do we see the comments, or is that
No,
just
I
you?
might be able to. Yeah, he just said what up though.
What up?
He was at my fight. He saw
He
saw the robbery today.
Man, oh yeah, coach has been complaining about this one, Daniel. I didn't get to see
But
it.
he actually gave us the win. He was the one judge that gave us the win. But anyways, it's amateur.
And now he's on the podcast. It's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
All right, so Coach, so when do you step it up? So when do you start fighting guys that are...
Well, generally the consensus between us coaches on stepping it up for the challenge is when the pay is good.
The pay is
Yeah,
good?
it's like if the risk is worth the reward, then yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of, as far as the conversations I had, that's what dictates the when to step it up. But
Not when your fighter's ready? No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? I mean, you could think he's ready. You know,
Hey,
you could think he's ready. For example, like the Benavidez fight last night, right?
He wasn't ready. I mean, everyone knew that.
Well,
That's different.
well, yeah. Was he ready? Timing.
He's as ready as he's gonna be.
Yeah,
His knee. He's just Bud is a different animal. That's all.
And then the other thing, his knee was messed up, so it's like, yeah, he's as ready as he's ever gonna be with that. So
I think
plus
so.
he probably got paid pretty well too. So
Handsomely.
yeah, so the risk was worth the reward there. You know.
I mean, I feel like in a fight like that, I mean, no one expects you to win. So if you lose,
yeah,
you did your best. I mean, he fought better than I thought he was gonna fight.
I thought so too. Actually,
Yeah.
I thought if his leg was good, if he never got shot in the knee, he actually would have maybe pulled off an upset.
It's just
Because
like,
he was giving him trouble for the first 3 rounds. He couldn't figure out he was countering good and he was using his range good. He was kind of jabbing him like jab for jab or a little bit out jabbing him.
I thought Crawford got touched quite a bit more than I thought he should have, or expected him to. Because, I mean, I expected him to kind of just mop the floor with him.
Really?
For the most, yeah, and
So-
he seemed to get tagged up quite a bit.
I think a couple things. One is I think I have a higher opinion of Jose Benavidez than a lot of people who I see commenting and stuff on it. I actually think both of the Benavidez boys are incredible talents, right? So I did not expect, for instance, that it was going to be like a demolition job. I mean, you didn't
No.
either, right? Yeah. I didn't expect that it was going to be a demolition job. But I think the thing is, and I mentioned this when we did the fantasy matchup between Andre Ward and Joe Calzaghe. And I was kind of saying that there are certain guys that just seem to have another level, like so where things will seem competitive and we'll all go, oh no, this is looking harder than we thought, and then somehow they have another gear or they figure something out,
Something we've never seen.
and they just pull away, and that's kind of what happened. He started, it was competitive for 3 rounds, 4 and 5 were okay, and then starting around round 6, you can just see him take it to the next level and pull away. And there are fights like you watch Mayweather versus Maidana their first time, or Mayweather versus Cotto, or Andre Ward versus Kovalev the first time, right? And you see that they experience some difficulty, but then something just registers, like something clicks, and they just sort of pull away in the second half of the fight. And
I
Bud
think
is like that to me.
The difference between, your top 10 pound-for-pound
Yeah.
guys and everyone else, as good as they may be, they always have, that next level. Because, I mean, all those guys you just mentioned were,
Yeah, like
I think at the end of it, Crawford will probably be a Hall of Famer, right?
yeah, they're all
so
top
good.
pound for pound dudes,
And Crawford,
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like there's just he's just a different level. So I don't know that Jose Benavidez could have done any better. He's a extremely talented fighter. He's just fighting a better fighter. It's like everybody who fights Andre Ward or Floyd Mayweather. They're just fighting better fighters than they are.
I mean, it was definitely a lot more competitive than I expected.
Yeah.
Because I did say mop job, but I expected him to lose.
Yeah.
I expected him to get TKO'd earlier than he did.
Really?
Yeah,
I was thinking
like
round 10,
Yeah.
I was thinking like 8 or 9.
even though I was rooting for Benavidez, and I thought he would do better than people, were expecting. But I was expecting Bud to pretty much do what he did, like come up late in the fight and just, come up with some craziness and knock him out.
Yeah.
So I got 2 questions. So that same fight that Crawford fought, if he fought that fight against Spence, what do we think?
That's the thing. After the fight, there's all these comments that like, oh man, Spence is gonna destroy him. If as much as he got touched up by Benavidez, Spence is gonna kill him. And I don't think that's gonna happen. I think he's gonna do the same thing. He's gonna elevate his game against Spence. And I don't think he's strong, but he's not as smart of a boxer as Crawford, or as can do those adjustments and then can come up with different tricks.
Yeah, exactly. Crawford is
Yeah.
one of those guys that can beat you at your own game because, he adjusts it to who he's fighting. Because when he fought Postol,
Absolutely.
right? Postol probably had the biggest puncher he fought
Yeah.
until.
Yeah, and I think the same thing when he fights Jeff Horn. Like, not only did he beat Jeff Horn, he beat Jeff Horn at his game. He
Yeah.
used the same tactics against Jeff Horn, right, that Jeff Horn used against Pacquiao.
Right. So yeah, so that's what I've been seeing on the internet. Everybody's saying, well, if he fights like that against Spence, he's gonna get beat.
Well,
He's
he
not
wouldn't-
gonna fight like that.
He wouldn't
against
fight
Spence.
like that against Spence, mostly because Spence is a different fighter. So, like, what I mean by that is stylistically, he's just very different. So when you watch Jose Benavidez, for instance, I mean, he's a clear counterpuncher, right? So here's something that you see a lot of. You see their lead hands just constantly tapping each other for like 5 rounds, right? Because they're both just trying to
Find the range.
bait each other into coming forward. All of the hands down tactics and stuff like that, that's all trying to bait Bud Crawford to throw punches. That's the idea. The reason I'm laying on the ropes, the reason I'm dropping my hands, the reason I keep tapping the front of his glove is because I want Bud to throw so that I can counter, right? And that would not be an Errol Spence fight. So
No.
Errol Spence isn't going to come and be tapping the front glove and trying to get Bud to laying on the ropes, trying to get Bud to come in and attack him.
And
It's
he
just not his style.
He won't be shaking his head every time he gets
Every
hit
time
either.
he gets hit.
and saying no.
He
That
won't.
was pissing me off so bad because
Yeah, I know.
for me that's wasted time. I mean, come back with a counter punch like in that second.
I mean, I think a lot of that too, the hands down also was, the animosity that was going
Sure.
into that fight, which I'm going to be honest, I thought was all fake. I thought it was all
Really?
for show. They were trying to sell the fight.
Yeah, but I actually think there's just a big stylistic difference between those two. So a fight with Bud Crawford and Spence wouldn't look like that just because there's a big stylistic difference between Jose Benavidez and Spence. It would look very different.
So, I mean, I think they're ready. I think we need to see that fight. I think Spence get, whoever you want and then take Crawford next.
Who do you think takes it, though?
I'm going to take Crawford just for the reason you said. He finds a way to pull it out. He's going to adjust. And if he can survive Spence's power, which I think he can, because I don't think he's going to get hit by it as much as – I mean, he's not going to get hit as much as he got hit last night. So I think at the end of it, I think it'll be a decision for Crawford.
Yeah. What do you think, Coach?
I think Crawford should win it, but I do think Spence has more of a chance to land a hard flush shot than Benavidez did. I think Spence can land that power shot on him, and if Bud can take it, which he took those shots pretty well, he didn't look bothered at all by Benavidez. I know Benavidez is a hard puncher, not the hardest puncher, but
So who do – I mean,
I
who's
think
the hardest
Crawford-
puncher Crawford's faced? Postol?
Me? The hardest puncher Crawford's faced? Sorry, I was reacting to the fact that Daniel just posted that I'm the best boxing analyst in the game.
nice.
Ooh.
He
threw it out there,
compliment
dude.
from
Boom.
That's a big compliment
That's
there.
a
I mean,
USA,
we'll make you a
You're going
USA
places.
boxing official right
You're
there.
going places, buddy.
I'm
We'll
sorry.
make you a
I have
little
to- I have
pin.
to step out now. I'm done for the evening. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, man. So Postal, yeah. So the only question is, can he handle the size to me with Errol Spence? So because Errol Spence is, in all actuality, he's a big welterweight. He could easily fight above that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's had no issues saying that he would like to challenge Canelo at 154 and doing things like that, right? It's the same sort of I think it's a similar kind of dynamic to Mikey Garcia, which is that is it possible that Bud and Mikey outbox Errol Spence? Absolutely. The only question is really, can they handle the size and the power?
I mean, if we're being honest, Spence has already been outboxed because I think Kell Brook outboxed him.
Sure. Yeah,
Right?
That's fair. That's yeah.
Kell
that's
Brooks,
fair.
he was damaged goods already because he already had that broken eye socket. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was already weary of it. So once it happened again, that was the end of Kell Brook, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't really trying to fight after that, and he took down the knee. He was done. He wanted to live to fight another day, but for what was it? 8 rounds?
Yeah.
For 6, at least 6. Kell Brook outboxed Errol Spence.
That was the funniest, I guess, promotion up to the fight because they were calling each other. They had nicknames for each other. I don't know
Yeah.
if we can say them, but they had the funniest nicknames.
I don't remember them.
But to that point, though, I think the difference is because of the size discrepancy with these guys, there's 2 things that would have to happen, right? Bud has to be able to handle the power of Errol Spence, which I think he could. Now, the other thing is that Bud's shots have to matter enough to keep Errol away,
And
right?
keep him back.
They have to matter enough to keep. So it's actually almost more a question of how well does Errol take Bud's shots, right? So because if he could take him and he doesn't feel him, then he'll just walk through him
Yeah.
to land the power shots, to do the important damage. Bud has to put enough on it that he can actually keep Errol honest. Right? He has to be able to keep him honest. And that's the thing about, like, if you watch Floyd and you listen to Shane Mosley talk about him, and Shane Mosley said he has a surprising amount of power on that shot, right? Of course he does. He has to, because if he didn't, everybody would just walk right through him like he was Paulie Malignaggi, right? Like, they wouldn't care.
Okay.
That's not. I know that sounds harsh, but what I mean is they wouldn't care, right? They wouldn't care that they're taking shots like that, because you can take a shot to give a shot in that instance. If you're feeling like, oh, I can land a bigger one, then I'll just take one to get one, right?
Fair.
So it has to be something that keeps you honest in that respect. And that's really, it seems like he hits that
if
hard.
Malinaggi actually could jab and
Well,
keep people
He
back.
can jab. He has a tremendous jab.
He's-
If
just
it
doesn't-
hurt,
Yeah. Well, I said he
Yeah.
could have been one of the greatest boxers ever if he had power.
If he had any power.
He
Yeah,
boxed.
yeah.
He had
Power.
good
He was-
defense,
he was great.
movement,
Yeah.
fast.
he was tough. I mean, against
And he
Cotto,
was
that
tough.
was insane. That was
Yeah. I mean, you even look at someone like Adrian Broner, has power in his hands. He had trouble just freezing up because Paulie was throwing so many punches in succession that were just clean punches. Like, just
that's how you
staying
beat
still.
Broner. If you make him
Just
think,
throw punches.
you've already
All you have
beat
to do
him.
is throw
You just have
punches.
to make him think.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's why Manny's would take it to him. No, he would. Manny, like, everyone's like, oh, do you think Broner? I think Manny would take it to him. He just
Yeah.
throws too many punches too quickly for Broner to even do anything. He would just stand there with his guard up. The
I think
whole
he
time.
gets. I think he freezes up
He'll
when
shake his head a lot.
somebody.
Yeah.
When somebody stands up to him, he can't do anything. Broner. He tries to be a bully, but he's not.
He's not now.
Yeah.
Especially
He's
if
been
he has
stood
to-
up to. He's been exposed. Come
Yeah.
on.
If he has to fight off any sort of back foot or think about what he has to do,
Yeah.
it's over.
So, yeah.
I think even
Yeah.
Granados could have beat him if he would have made him think just a little bit more.
A little bit
Well,
more.
some people thought he won.
Some
that
people
fight.
thought he did. Yeah, I mean,
So
it
that was a
good
close
fight.
fight.
Yeah.
That was a great
It was a
fight,
good
actually.
fight.
yeah.
But I think Crawford takes it on a decision. as
Yeah,
far
I
as
agree.
that.
I think Crawford takes it.
So unanimous decision
Yeah,
for.
I think Bud Crawford is, and man, by the way, this is not a popular opinion. I actually said it before he beat Jose Benavidez, but I said I thought Bud Crawford was the man at welterweight. So, like, I actually think he's at welterweight that he would beat, for instance, Danny Garcia or those guys.
I agree with that.
Right?
I mean,
And people are
is
like,
Thurman still even relevant?
Thurman doesn't even count.
He's
I
on
don't think.
vacation. He'll be
Oh,
back.
extended.
I don't even, like, I think Thurman's a great fighter, but once you're out for 2 years, it's kind of like you don't go into the ranking system
Like
until
Tyson
you,
Fury?
Yeah, like until you come back and fight. So, I mean,
Tyson
to
Fury
me,
being the lineal champ kind of
yeah,
ceased to exist once he took his. I mean, do you
Yeah.
disagree?
I don't disagree, but only because Anthony Joshua actually beat Vladimir Klitschko in that time, right? And I think that's sort of the key factor. Had Anthony Joshua never beat Vladimir Klitschko, Tyson Fury, in my mind, would still be the lineal champion.
Ooh,
If
even
he-
coming
if he-
off.
Even coming off the layoff, because he was serving a suspension. So it's not actually, he wasn't just inactive the way that Thurman's inactive. He was tested positive for an anabolic steroid.
True.
So, and so he was serving a suspension in that period of time, and as soon as he could fight again, he fought again. Now, he makes it seem like he was just taking time off and all this different stuff.
But that's true.
But
he was
had
suspended.
he was suspended. He had to have the commission come in and grant him permission to fight again. Once they came to the conclusion that he could, 6 months later, he was
did.
fighting again,
That's
right?
true.
So he was actually serving a suspension. He has a point. But I mean, no. Anthony Joshua, a consensus sort of lands on Anthony Joshua, and partially that's because he beat Vladimir Klitschko. So
Fair enough. That's
Yeah.
true. There, not a lot has happened really at welterweight too in Thurman's absence.
yeah, so like two guys who he beat fought each other. You know what I mean? Picked up the belt.
And they're holding it for him.
Yeah, Errol Spence, despite being with Al Heyman, for some reason doesn't get fights with the other welterweights that are under Al Heyman's table.
That's a good point.
And then
Yeah.
Bud Crawford now is, to me, just the man to beat. But that's not a popular opinion, I found out.
It's also
on,
not an easy fight
on
to
that.
get, being where he is.
Well, yeah,
So-
because he's at top rank. I actually don't know how he's going to fight any of the other world-class welterweights because
I think that's the biggest problem. I don't
Yeah.
think they have a problem fighting each other. I just think
as
promotionally,
fighters know, yeah.
yeah. I feel like boxing is kind of sectored off now, big time.
Yeah.
Especially now that DAZN is in the picture.
This weekend was difficult, man. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't watch everything this weekend.
It was hard. I didn't
couldn't
catch everything.
do it. Well, like there was 2 Golden Boy cards.
Yeah.
Right.
Thompson had one, right?
Thompson
had one.
had a card, 2 DAZN, and Top Rank. So 2 Golden Boy, 1 Thompson,
That
2
6?
DAZN. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I couldn't watch them all. So like, there's fights I haven't seen yet, just because.
So how's DAZN work? You can go back and watch the replay, right?
Yeah, I can. I just haven't done it yet.
Okay. Yeah, me
Because
neither.
I'm watching these other ones. So. But yeah.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I'm not mad that there's lots of boxing. I wish it was easier to watch all of it.
That's what I mean. It's not easy to watch all of it, and I also think that, I mean, it's just a lot of boxing on one night. You know, like
Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of the Belasco Theater card, it was all on Saturday.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, I don't know, it's tough. But I agree, it's going to be hard for Crawford to make any fights with the other elite welterweights because they're all with Al Heyman.
So what do you think's next for Crawford?
I really don't know. I don't know. Like, I would like to say that it's a fight like Errol Spence, but I just don't see it because they're all with Al Heyman. So
Yeah, Heyman just doesn't play well with.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there a history of Al Heyman not working with Top Rank or never putting a fight together with them?
no, it's not a matter of never, but he has so many welterweights in his own stable. It's more lucrative for him to make them all fight each other on PBC since he has contracts now with FS1, and basically Al Heyman has to create enough cards to satisfy Fox and Showtime now. So he has, I think they extended the Showtime deal, and he has to put cards on Fox. So
So it's really hard for him to shop him out to Top Rank.
yeah, to shop him out to Top Rank when Top Rank has the deal with ESPN. So it's kind of like,
I mean, I think in all of this, it's a win for boxing fans, but at the same time, we're deprived of.
in some ways, it's a loss for boxing.
Yeah,
fans.
because we're getting deprived, of the big fight.
Yeah.
Because I mean, right now, I think that's the biggest fight we can get outside of Joshua Wilder.
Joshua Wilder, yeah. Maybe Canelo and another Triple G rematch.
Which will happen in due time.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah,
Money-wise,
so those are the big
that's the
ones.
biggest
Those are
fight,
the big
but-
ones, yeah. I mean, I think they actually did worse this time than they did last time. I think they did 1.4 million buys last time, only 1.1 this time or something like that.
Yeah, but they also showed it in a lot of public theaters. They did. That's where I saw the fight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, they did.
So I don't know how they count those buys because if you fill up a theater with 100 people,
That's true.
100 less buys.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day. Let me ask you, because you always hear that MMA is winning. Do you guys see that a lot? I see people in comments when they're putting negative comments. They always say this is why MMA is winning.
Well, I mean,
Do you
I
ever
think
do
on
that?
pay-per-view, it's
Right.
pretty there's really no room for discussion because McGregor did 3 or 4 mil.
No, it was 2.4 million buys.
Okay.
Okay, so
still
2.4,
more than.
which is way more than Triple G and Canelo, but that shattered the UFC record. So the UFC record before that was 1.6 million buys.
Was it Connor's record?
And it was it was McGregor and Nate Diaz. So
Okay.
so it shattered the UFC record. Now let's
But I would say boxing helped McGregor's latest
Sure,
fight though,
sure.
because his
Also-
with Mayweather. You know?
also what do you think how many buys did McGregor and Mayweather get? 4.6 million. It basically beat their record by more. When people compare pay-per-view numbers, they do it annually, which is misleading because UFC has more annual pay-per-view shows
Then,
than boxing does, right? We do 2 a year, but the ones that we do Canelo and Triple G would have been the third highest all-time UFC pay-per-view. So I'm not sure why people
Yeah,
say
it is
that they're
tough too
winning.
because MMA is still the numbers are still fresh because it's not like MMA's been around since the 80s. UFC 1 was. Was that on pay-per-view?
I don't know how they did it back in the day. I had the tapes, I think.
all those
VHS.
all those OG
I had the VHS.
UFCs were on pay-per-view.
And I think pay-per-view is what's irrelevant more than anything because outside of your big 2-3 fights a year,
Well,
you don't have to pay for pay-per-view.
Well, I don't think MMA is winning per se. I just think it's easier to be a fan of MMA. It's easier to follow. But if you look at what's happening with MMA, I don't know why Golden Boy is getting involved, but he's pulling out some old fighters to have their third or fourth match, and then Rampage Jackson just fought Vanderlei Silva for the fourth time, I think, for Bellator.
Bellator, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, you get sometimes you get boxers where the guys in their older age fight each other, the old champions, but I don't know. That's a little bit too obscene for me as far as MMA. I think boxing's coming out on top right now. It's just a little bit difficult to follow because, as you mentioned before, there's so many different fights, so many different promoters, so many different networks, all happening at the same
belts.
day. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the structure of boxing is so much harder to follow.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
You have to be dedicated. You have to be a big-time boxing fan.
UFC, you just focusing on one, and then Bellator as a minor, and then some other minor ones, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's either the UFC on Fox, this is free, and the big, the numbered pay-per-views where they're fighting for one belt, and the mandatories are, there's no, like, I'm going to skip this mandatory. Like, you have to fight who they tell you to fight.
Yeah.
Or you surrender the belt and someone else fights for it.
So here's a question for boxing fans and MMA fans, for you guys out there. Why does boxing have to lose for MMA to win and vice versa? Everyone always treats it like like one of them has to do good and the other one has to do bad.
The MMA fans on the couch that always talk shit like, dude, MMA is awesome, fuck boxing, But I say, you know what? That's true.
I'm sure some boxing dudes are like that too. I'm sure there's boxing people like, oh,
yeah,
MMA
like,
is stupid.
Yeah, why they're humping on the ground,
the most prevalent thing I hear is, oh, well, boxing's boring, dude. Like, they don't kick each other, they don't slam each other. But I mean, MMA is boring too
especially when
it's
they're
a grappling match.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I just don't know why one has to win and like it doesn't have to be win-lose. Like it's cool if they both do successfully. They're both fine.
Fighting sports right now is, man, it's hot. Both of them. Boxing and MMA. I mean, you're talking about Canelo, Triple G.
See, there we go.
And then Khabib and McGregor. I mean, back to back. That's huge.
I mean, they can coexist because, I mean, I feel like inevitably fans of the UFC are fight fans, right? So
there's crossover there.
If there's a big boxing fight, they're probably going to watch, and vice versa. When Conor fights, like, obviously I'm always going to watch a Saturday boxing card before UFC. But if there's a big one, I'm going to watch the UFC. I'm not picking sides.
Yeah.
So, Golden Boy is doing their Tito fight, right?
Yeah.
So, is there boxing on that card? Like, wouldn't that be cool?
I don't know. Local promoters do that a lot.
Yeah.
So you could see at an all-star show, you could see some Muay Thai and some boxing, or there are other shows that do some MMA and some boxing.
I wonder if we'll ever see that at a really, really high level, though.
Well, I mean, it's huge in like Thailand and the Philippines, right? Soren Visai, he just fought on like a hybrid.
He did.
There's Muay Thai boxing.
Soren Visai's card was a hybridized card.
And I think that's kind of like the standard over there. That's huge. Like, that's how they do it. Roy Jones, he was promoting some of those locally. He was the main event, boxing, and then before that there was some MMA fights. So, I mean, I think they can coexist, and maybe that's what Golden Boy's trying to do.
Well, I think that the demographic is kind of leveled out now because when MMA was first kind of like coming up, the demographic for boxing, I think they weren't interested in MMA at all, and it was mostly, I don't want to say older people, but it was just that demographic that was, that was just into boxing. They didn't understand MMA. Now I think, you've got a lot of MMA practitioners that do boxing, and then I think just the demographic has leveled out and crosses over to both. So that argument is dying a little bit, like with boxing versus MMA. They're both awesome.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would say.
Big fan of both.
If they weren't both good in their own way, then you wouldn't see Golden Boy venturing into MMA events, and you wouldn't see Dana White and Zuffa Boxing trying to venture into boxing, right? So you have Dana White, who's trying to pick up Mikey Garcia and get Zuffa Boxing off the ground and do stuff like that. And you have Oscar De La Hoya, who's now doing MMA events at the Forum in Los Angeles. So
is this going to be a endeavor of his, or is this a one-time hey, Tito asked me if I could fight?
It probably depends on how successful it is, right? Like if they experience some success with this event, there's no reason for them not to do another one if they can get the names to do it.
But are they going to sign local guys and have cards? Because I don't know who else is fighting on this card.
Like Belasco Theater style cards with MMA.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a stable, right? Because you're not. Because I don't know. Is there any other fights on that card? I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm sure there are, of course, but generally speaking, there's a mandated number of rounds or at least in boxing. In boxing, there's a mandated number of rounds that have to be on any card, scheduled. It doesn't have to go that many, but there has to be a scheduled number of rounds.
So they're probably local guys then.
Yeah, so it might be local guys or
Probably
who
not
knows?
signed to Golden Boy.
Well, like if Zuffa gets involved, I can't see them. I mean, how many more
and they need a
entities
stable.
can you fit into boxing? You know, how many more? I mean,
I don't know.
they would have to just maybe manage and then work with some of the other existing promoters.
I don't think it would work. I think they'd be the kid holding his lunch tray, looking for a place to sit in the cafeteria.
Yeah,
'cause
there's no room.
Yeah. there's
Well,
not.
Zuffa actually kind of wants it that way. And initially, the reports were, I believe there's a quote from Dana White that said that Zuffa would not recognize any existing sanctioning body in boxing.
So are they going to make their own
They
belts?
would make their own. Yeah, they would make their own in the way that the UFC does. So they would rank their own competitors. They would provide their own belts, and that they don't recognize WBC, WBO.
Well, I just don't think anybody would take them seriously unless they found like the
Depends on who they get, right? So at the time they were targeting Mikey Garcia, right? Because Mikey was an independent, a free agent. So I think their focus was, hey, if we can get Mikey, then we can start something.
Hey,
Okay, so here, go ahead.
But UFC is known not to really pay their fighters as well as boxers get paid, I think.
Unless your name's Connor.
Yeah, there's very few
Yeah.
boxers make a lot more than
Isn't
even the lower level guys make more.
That's true.
is it? Because I always thought that the argument was that across the board that UFC fighters do better, which means the lowest level fighters in boxing, the guys who are on the local shows here, for instance,
I don't think so.
They're
'cause it
making
seems-
less than the lowest level fighters in the UFC, but at the highest level, the boxers are making way more than UFC fighters are.
Cause
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. I'd have to like Google it, but I think like guys are getting like what, 50 grand or 30 grand like to fight on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Where, I
Co-main
mean,
event.
But that's way more than a boxer on the it depends on where you are on the card, right? Like what's the lowest amount that you'll get paid as a professional boxer, coach?
To start out,
Yeah.
$1,000, $2,000.
Yeah, exactly. It's like $1,000. So like it seems like
I
maybe
feel like
maybe
if you're
2,000.
boxing at that level though,
Yeah.
the comparable like the MMA equivalent, like you might not be getting.
You're
paid
not in the
at all.
UFC.
Yeah, you're definitely not in the UFC.
You're not in the UFC. You're out some other.
Yeah, well, I think the guys on UFC that are on TV, I mean, they're probably getting paid as low as $5,000, and they're on TV.
Yeah, which is almost criminal. I
Yeah.
mean,
I have no idea how much they get paid, to be honest. I just know at the highest level they don't get paid anything near what boxers get
Well, a lot
paid.
of the fighters, I know a lot of the fighters have been complaining over the years that Dana's the only one making all the money, or that UFC's making all the
UFC
money.
makes the money, yeah.
Yeah.
there's big discrepancies too in like your A side, B side in UFC because Conor what 57 million for Khabib, and Khabib took home what 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think that also
If they let them have it.
But
If
they
they let him
work-
have it, yeah.
the difference is they work for UFC. Like Floyd Mayweather, for instance, does not work for the WBC.
Well, that's
You
why
know what I
Zuffa,
mean?
that's
Like-
why the Zuffa model wouldn't work though. 'Cause
Yeah, like those fighters are actually employed by UFC compared to, and they have contracts to do multiple fights with UFC. Floyd doesn't work for the WBC or the sanctioning body.
Floyd don't work for
So
nobody.
then, I mean, theoretically, okay, they get Mikey Garcia. Who's he gonna fight?
Yeah, because they have to get somebody else, right?
Yeah,
to fight.
and I mean, if they do, then he's not gonna be recognized by any sanctioning body except for Zuffa, right? So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I don't. Unless there's something that we don't know.
It was just
I
a
just-
T-shirt that Dana
Well, it
was
didn't
wearing.
work.
Yeah.
They didn't get him. They weren't able to pick him up anyway. Mikey stayed independent and kind of went his
I
own
think
route.
there's just too much money in boxing with the big four sanctioning bodies for Mikey right now, especially if he's chasing down Errol Spence. And
Supposedly, but Errol Spence was just on Twitter saying he doesn't have a fight. So I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
One of those two guys doesn't seem to want to fight the other one. I don't know.
I think it's for the better. I think I'd rather see Mikey fight other people, and I'd rather see Spence fight Crawford.
Yeah.
But if he can't fight Crawford, I mean, who would you guys?
Well, still like in Sean Porter,
Sean
for
Porter?
instance. Yeah.
That's probably what's gonna happen.
Unify with Sean Porter. That would be fine. You know.
Sounds good.
Which
Yeah,
sets him
sounds
up to
good to me.
fight Thurman if he comes back.
Did you guys see Mike Alvarado?
I was just gonna ask you because you were saying you're from Denver. I was like, what a coincidence. That's why we brought you here.
No, what?
Mike Alvarado fought on the top rank card last night.
Okay, so I was actually at work, and I took my lunch break right as the Crawford fight started. So I actually didn't get to see much of anything else. I saw the Mikaela Mayer fight on the drive over.
Mike
which I don't
Alvarado
advocate, but-
may have had. There were a lot of knockouts last night. So I mean, Golden Boys main event ended in a knockout.
Do we have a clip?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull one up. But Mike Alvarado's knockout last night perhaps was
39-4.
the greatest
what a record.
knockout of the night. Yeah, and those four are some serious competitors, right? So he's 39-4. Who has he lost to? He's lost to Juan Manuel Marquez.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly. He's lost to Brandon Rios twice. And the fourth one, I'd have to look at it. I don't remember who the fourth one is.
I couldn't. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'm sure it's right there in BoxRec though.
Yeah, that's true. He's gonna drop down. He said to another a weight class below. He weighed in. It was a welterweight fight, but he weighed in at 142.
Oh, okay.
And man, he smashed the guy.
I need to see this.
I know. I gotta see if I can.
Are
Pull
we
it
talking
up.
like KO of the year?
I don't know that it's like a knockout of the year type thing, but it's certainly a decent little knockout.
Well, I didn't do a double take when I saw him. I was like, I hadn't seen his face in a while, and I was like, is that him?
You know what's funny is he fought on an untelevised undercard. I don't know if you remember this, Coach, but a few weeks ago on our show we were talking about he fought on an untelevised undercard and he won, but he took a lot of damage. And I was kind of asking, is it worth it for Mike Alvarado to be taking that kind of damage this late in his career? And we were talking about him possibly retiring, but then he scores this vicious knockout and then is going to now drop down in weight to compete for titles. So we'll see how he does. But here's the clip.
Well, I think when you have that kind of record, 39-4, that kind of name, and you fought who he has fought, it just takes 2 or 3 fights to get back in for for a very well paying fight.
That wasn't a real clip. I try not to deceive you guys like that with my YouTube thumbnails, but this one wasn't an actual clip.
I mean, that one would have tricked me too, though.
Yeah, right? It's clearly showing. It's a terrific shot. I should look up, let's see, PBC, I'm sorry.
Did he call
Top
out
Rank
Spence
must have-
after? Because there was like a video that said he calls out Spence.
No, he's going to drop down. He actually had said that the only reason he stayed at that weight was because he was in negotiations to fight Manny Pacquiao. And so he stayed at 147 for that, and then they fell through because obviously Manny Pacquiao. Oh, by the way, Manny Pacquiao supposedly signed a 2-fight deal with Al Heyman.
Yeah, I saw that.
So is that
Yeah.
a tune-up and then Broner, or?
Broner's supposed to be the tune-up, I think.
Oh,
It's
is that what he's been relegated to?
Broner and
For
Floyd.
Mayweather, right?
Oh, for Mayweather, that's
Yeah,
right.
so it's Broner and Floyd is the theory.
So what do we think? That's Pacquiao's swan song?
Yeah, so he
versus
did the
Floyd.
But-
Because I think they're going to do it in, because there's been talks that they're trying to do a big fight in Dubai.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So, I mean, I think this is the perfect setup, right? Broner, I mean, because you're going to make money off that fight. And
Broner and then Floyd.
then take it to Dubai with Floyd.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And then just call it, man. Cause
But the good thing about being with Al Heyman, like we said before, I can't believe that Top Rank didn't post this knockout. It blows my mind. They have Shakur Stevenson's, which is good, but it was not as good as Mike Alvarado's, I don't think. I'm gonna have to do some digging and see if I can find it here. But yeah, so the great thing about being with Al Heyman and PPC is that he has all the top welterweights except for Bud, right? So even if Floyd doesn't work out or whatever the case is, you can still make a big fight with one of these other welterweights.
yeah, there's always a backup.
Yeah, so there's tons of them. So
I gotta give it up to Bob Arum for consistently always having that one guy that is at the top of the weight class or his division. He's
I think
always,
Bob Arum has the best stable in boxing. Top to
Yeah.
bottom, I mean, I think I don't think you can compete with Arum's stable of he's got everybody.
no, I think Golden Boy's stable is suffering a little bit, which is why they're actually doing smart things in my mind with doing more local shows that are now on Facebook, because it's giving them an opportunity to create names out of people who are members of their existing stable,
Yeah.
instead of trying to go out and sign all the big people who are already with Al Heyman,
That are expensive.
that are already with Top Rank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're sort of fleshing out a new stable since all of their
That's what you got to do.
people were robbed.
That's what you got to do. You got to develop your talent, you know.
So there's some rumors that Canelo might not be with Golden Boy for much longer. How do we?
What's he gonna do?
Well, he's a free agent, right?
Well, that's what people. Yeah, they're wondering like, where's he gonna go? Does he? Would he sign with Heyman, or does he go to
Matchroom, baby.
DAZN?
Matchroom.
Yeah?
DAZN.
And then, but Triple G is
168.
also a free agent.
Yeah, because he could still fight Triple G, but then he can also fight like Caleb Smith and all those guys.
I mean,
At
I want to see him
at
fight
168.
Charlo. I don't know why. That's the fight I want to see.
You wanna see-
Him and Charlo.
Canelo and Charlo.
Yeah.
Who do you think wins that fight?
I mean, my brain, Canelo, right? He's going to outbox him. But, I mean, I think if anybody, and I've been saying this for going on 2 years, I said that Charlo was going to be the guy to dethrone one or both of either Canelo or Triple G or both. Because I think he's just the guy to do it. I think he's the next guy. Because, I mean, eventually, I mean, Canelo is still young, but he's got 51 fights?
Yeah, he's got a lot of fights.
Yeah,
He even
eventually.
I think he
gonna-
claims he has even more than that. They just don't count on his record because he can't prove it.
And I
But-
mean, obviously, Triple G he's gonna ride off into the sunset soon, right? So I think he's gonna sign a 2-3 fight deal with DAZN.
DAZN could be the way to go.
Yeah,
I think so. The reason I say that is just because I don't know that he'll actually leave Oscar, but like those guys just have so much money to pay their fighters. Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn.
and I mean, Eddie
Those
Hearn
guys have so
hasn't
much
spent
money to
all
pay.
of that money he got.
That's what I mean. Eddie Hearn has barely tapped the USA stable. He's barely been able to pick up fighters in the U.S. Eddie Hearn has so much money to throw at Canelo Alvarez. It's ridiculous.
And that gives
Time for me to make a comeback.
You want to make a comeback?
I'm just kidding.
Eddie Hearn needs fighters
because
for his
that gives
stable,
us
man.
a Triple G Jacobs rematch or a Jacobs Canelo fight.
Well, you know, now that Triple G lost, I think all his fights should be for money. He should get paid.
Yeah,
You know, he's had some good fights. He's
earned that.
built. Yeah, exactly. He's earned that. I think whether he has 2 or 3 more fights, they should all be. He should be looking at how much money can he make because he's out of time. So 2 or 3, and then
I think that's the only reason
Yeah.
to take another Triple G Canelo fight because
Well,
there's really nothing to prove. He's not going to win a third fight. I don't think.
looks like neither of them are going to end up fighting Billy Joe Saunders.
yeah, F that guy, dude.
Did you?
He's a jerk.
Yeah, dude, he's kind of just a scumbag. And
They said he voluntarily vacated the title, so
Did
he
he?
was not stripped. He gave it away.
That's
Well, I heard he
that's
was-
like quitting before you get fired or after you get fired.
yeah, you're
was
fired.
fired, I
Don't
quit.
worry, I quit.
Yeah. But no, yeah.
Well, I heard he cursed out like the commission. He said some mean things and hung up the phone. And then maybe after that he vacated his title.
he vacated his title voluntarily.
So he didn't even try to fight it. I mean, I wonder if
yeah,
there's
no.
any state that would have sanctioned that fight.
Well, apparently not
Not
the state of
Massachusetts.
Michigan, or Massachusetts, or wherever it was. Yeah, but it's not sanctioned there.
So did he get served a suspension?
I'm not aware that he's been served a suspension. I know that the fight is obviously they replaced him,
Right.
and that he voluntarily forfeited the belt, but it hasn't been made clear whether or not he's suspended for any period of time.
Which I feel like if they won't sanction the fight, then it's serious enough that they should probably suspend him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, look at Ortiz, right? Ortiz had that positive test just
Yeah.
before the Deontay Wilder fight, and then they kind of reevaluated it. The fight was called off,
Right.
but then a month later he was back in fighting Deontay Wilder.
So,
So,
I mean, I guess same with Triple G Canelo,
yeah,
sort of.
Triple Canelo got this slap on the wrist that actually helped his cause, I think.
Yeah.
I
The
told you,
golden
it was all made up. He never.
Coach thinks it was all faked, man.
Yeah, because
So-
I think they took the rematch too soon, and they were like, you know what? Let's make something up that we can't just say we got injured.
Yeah, that's too
or-
cliche.
Yeah, because then everybody's gonna say, oh, you're a wuss. You know, let's just screw it. We tainted meat. There we go.
I mean, they got us talking forever.
Yeah.
I, mean,
Yeah.
They
I
gave
don't,
more
I don't
time
even
for
risk it
Mikaela.
with carne asada anymore, you know? Who knows?
Yeah, that's
I
funny.
know, man.
So you think there's a big conspiracy behind the
Well, no, I think they took the fight too soon, the rematch too soon. The date was too quick, and they had second thoughts after, and they were like, you know what, we've got to come up with something that doesn't make us look like we're scared or that we're purposely not taking the fight.
Right.
So let's just come up with, I mean, they
Well,
talk
if
with
so,
the
that was
commission.
clever.
Yeah,
Well-
because also his knee was messed up, so it needed to get heal up.
That's true. He did have knee surgery.
He had a
Yeah.
knee surgery, yeah.
So that gave him time to have the knee surgery. It made Triple G have a camp and then switch up his opponent, and that totally messes up everything as far as your conditioning, and who you're fighting. It just messes with you mentally and physically. So I think it was a ploy, a plan.
That's actually the first time I've heard that. So I mean,
I have no comment. Oh, man.
yeah.
well, at least you don't have a Golden Boy guy on, right? I can agree or disagree where they just kind of, I don't know, man.
Sometimes I
No
get
comment.
surprised. People might be honest.
Well, dude, when you have crazy scorecards like in the first fight and
Yeah.
all this stuff, man, anything's possible in boxing, man.
Crazy scorecards are definitely possible in boxing.
Probable
Having way
in
too-
boxing.
yeah.
But hey, I wanted to add real quick where you're talking about Canelo leaving Golden Boy. That's absolutely possible. I think it's going to happen because and we've seen it before, when these fighters get to a certain level, when they get so big, they don't need a promoter. They come up with their own promotional company.
Yeah.
Mayweather Promotions.
There'll be Canelo Promotions.
Yeah, and even Golden Boy basically kind of,
Unless, he's
was
just
a blueprint for that.
It could be like a holding out type deal where he's like saying he's going to go somewhere else to see how much money Golden Boy will give him.
Well, he's going to do that either way, and
Yeah.
he's got to do the math and see if he can make more money without those guys, because at the end of the day, if Canelo's getting paid $50 million for a fight, a check signed by Golden Boy, how much money is Golden Boy getting,
Yeah, I mean.
So then he's like, I'm going to make $300 million now.
So that's actually, I wanted to bring that up. The MMA thing seemed kind of like a last ditch, like a desperation move, right? So maybe like
They're like, we're going to try this MMA stuff because we're running out of fighters here.
Once Canelo leaves, we're
if
done.
Canelo
Al
leaves,
Heyman's
I mean,
poached
there's
everybody.
not a whole lot left for Golden Boy.
Ryan
right?
Garcia fight
They have
Gervonta
Ryan
Davis
Garcia
right now.
Ryan Garcia is almost not a viable candidate at this point, meaning he has a big drawing, but you can't really put him in against anybody who's dangerous
'Cause he's
yet.
gonna get hurt.
And then
Develop him, man.
yeah, that's true. He's young.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's anywhere near his ceiling, but I think
Sure.
it's going to take him a very long time to get to where he could fight a Tank Davis
Yeah.
or basically any of those guys, because I mean that's a dangerous division, right? So besides Garcia, who else do they have besides JoJo?
Yeah, well, JoJo isn't that type of draw either.
No, and
Yeah.
he's probably their next big.
And they don't have Munguia, right? Munguia's with somebody else, but he does, or is he with Golden Boy?
Or he is with Golden Boy.
Yeah.
So Munguia might be their.
I think that's gonna be their go-to.
But I mean,
actually.
they have kind of like a depleted.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when, what's his name, Richard Schaefer works with Al Heyman to poach all your fighters. And
while
does
he's
all that.
working for you.
While he's working for you, he's shoveling
Dude,
fighters over to Al
that's the
Heyman.
biggest.
Yeah,
that's
it
the
is.
biggest low blow ever, man. The hell.
Take
of
all
that.
your fighters and then leave you with nobody.
But Oscar was not in a good place, man. I mean, he was. I think he went to rehab like right after that or during all that. So I mean, he didn't have his eye wasn't on the ball, And if it's your company, you gotta have your eye on the ball, man.
I mean, I feel like at some point there's got to be more than one. Like, it can't just be a single point of failure where if Oscar goes to rehab, like you lose your best fighter type deal. I mean,
He
there's
took
gotta
all
be.
Yeah, it's when Richard Schaefer's also working with the other team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, he
He's
was
actually
signing
playing
them
for the other dudes.
Well, what I read, he was signing them to contracts, but he left out that part where like you can't leave. He kind of left it open ended where you have a contract with Golden Boy, but if you do leave, there's nothing wrong. Nothing bad's gonna happen to you.
Yeah,
Madness.
it's not a bulletproof contract by.
Hey,
any
but
means.
that's another promoter, Ringstar, right? But they're not really doing much themselves, right?
There's so many boxing promotions.
Yeah.
There really are.
But-
Like
and now
it's
Zuffa Boxing, I guess, is another one.
they haven't done anything yet, at least. But I mean, it's hard to keep track.
I
of
feel
all
like
the-
you should just
all the
probably
promotions. Main event and all that
Maybe
stuff.
forget about that because I don't think Zuffa Boxing's ever gonna work.
Not gonna work. We
Unless
should
they get
trash it.
Canelo.
We should
I don't
trash
know.
it.
Well, I'm always advocating for a one entity, one league for all of boxing. There could be multiple belts, but they're all right there under one umbrella.
One
Hey,
ring to rule them all.
Aiba's gonna be the.
It would never happen.
Oh yeah, Aiba is going to be out of the Olympic business soon. They're going to be looking for other ventures.
Yeah, they're gonna run pro boxing.
They'll,
They're perfect fit.
They'll try and take over pro boxing. It's not corrupt enough that we now need Aiba to jump in.
There you go.
Do
That's
it.
a good
Get
fit.
in the mix.
Yeah, why not?
So what else? What else happened this
You
weekend?
said you watched the Mikaela Mayer fight?
I did. Well, it was kind of more of a highlight, right? Because
Well, I mean, no, it went all the way, right? It went the distance. It was just it was a schooling.
very one-sided. So what do we think? I mean,
Well, she picked up her first belt, NABF.
NABF.
Female
NABF,
super
yeah.
featherweight.
Yeah, and I think she went down in weight, right? She went down in weight to take that fight, and picked up a vacant. It was a vacant belt. Her opponent though was, I think they said her opponent had fought in her record. Like here, let me pull it up right here.
So I think women's boxing is in
4-0-2.
a really, really good place.
Oh, yeah.
But all the top fighters are spread out. So they're
Yeah.
not fighting each other because they just the weights.
Yeah, so like check this out. 4-0-2. Her record, Vanessa Bradford, that's over a period of 9 years,
Oh,
I think
wow.
they said.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah, so that 4-0-2 is over a period of 9 years,
That's very deceiving.
Mikaela Mayer's 7-0 have all come within like her first year of being a professional fighter.
So she was a model first, right? Or something? Like
she
did
was. I don't
something-
know what she was. She was
Right?
a kickboxer,
Well,
right?
She also did.
She
like,
modeled, but she started. I mean,
Started
she's
in
always been
kickboxing.
Mikaela Mayer.
Yeah, she was a kickboxer.
I don't know if she kickboxed.
Yeah, she was like a kickboxer, and then she hurt her legs, and so she switched to
Oh, wow.
regular stand-up
I didn't know that
boxing.
either.
Yeah. She was a kickboxer, hurt her legs. She switched to stand-up, and then, did the whole thing. Went to the
Well,
Olympics.
that explains because she
all that
said she got offered a Bellator contract right after the Olympics, and she was thinking about doing it because nothing was transpiring as far as pro boxing.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
that
Uncle
would make
Al.
sense. I always wondered why the hell would she do that?
Or
But
Uncle
I guess
Bob.
she knows how to kick.
No, yeah, she knows how to kick. I
Okay.
think she just hurt her legs, and so she switched to stand up,
Stand
and then found that she had something for
And
that.
this seems to be working out so far.
Yeah.
So.
And I would say the biggest fight for women, unfortunately, Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer.
Well, why did that? Why wasn't that? She
Medical.
got hurt, right?
Yeah, they said medical. So Christina Hammer had to bow out. So she's doing a rematch with Gabriel's, I think.
Oh, okay.
So they're still fighting for the undisputed title,
Hmm.
I guess, but it's a rematch with Gabriel's now. So so Hammer's gonna have to recover. I'm not sure what the specific injury was, but that's like the closest.
Is there as many weight classes in female boxing as there's in this male boxing?
There might be more. I mean, because there's a one below.
It goes lighter for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that
Because what does it go down? What is atom weight? 90 to 100 pounds or something?
atom weight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But and yeah, there's just so many. There's so many good like
As light as
women
an atom.
fighters, but they just. It's like 2 or 3 in this weight class, or 1 or 2 in this weight
Well,
class.
that's what
and then-
Yeah, they're spread out.
That's
yeah.
why
So it's kind of hard to
I would think it'd be better to have less weight classes and kind of
make
almost
'em-
like old school,
try to make them all. Yeah.
that would help.
No.
From what I see, their skill is amazing, and
Yeah.
the fights are always competitive. Well, not always competitive, but they're exciting fights, and there are really good boxers in the female class. So just to really get the ball rolling and then get more fans involved, get more females interested in boxing, because there's a lot of them that are actually doing MMA right now too.
Yeah.
Really good ones, and they're blowing it up in MMA. Probably less weight classes, and that way you have more competition.
More competition. Yeah. I mean, it's either gonna eliminate some weight classes or just wait a couple years for the weight classes to fill out.
What's the purpose of weight classes in male boxing? To give everybody a belt. To give
I
every.
mean, I think there's too
Right?
many weight classes in
Yeah.
male boxing too, but
We were actually talking about this last week, and because the WBC had put in some new, remember? So the WBC put in some new weight limitations. So they're putting in a 10% weight limit the day of the fight. So basically, you can't grow beyond 10% of the contracted weight,
like what Jacobs did to
like what Jacobs did,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, to Triple G. So you can't grow beyond 10% of your contracted weight on the day of the fight. And we kind of had a discussion about this, and what I landed on is you're supposed to weigh the same. Like that's the whole point of the weight classes is that we expect two fighters who are around the same size to fight. Like
At
you're
that size,
supposed
yeah.
to be the same.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
that's the intention.
I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I think same day weigh-ins we should go back to.
I don't know, man. I'm sort of on the fence about same day weigh-ins just because I think
Like, sure, you can
dangerous for the
rehydrate
fighters.
up, but I mean, well, with the WBC, they're doing 30-day weigh-ins, so
Yeah,
to
30 day.
eliminate, you know.
And they added a 14-day now, too. That was the other thing. They added a 14-day. So they have a 30-day, 14-day,
and then
7-day.
10% thing.
And then 10%.
So, I mean, I think weigh-ins are safe now, right? So, you know if they're going to make weight. So, why not have them weigh in same day? Because you can only rehydrate so much in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
What,
knowing that they'll
6?
make weight. It's how they do it, right? It's how they're making weight.
Well, hey,
That's
for
the problem.
example, Michael Myers, the fight we had against Mijares, he weighed in at 139.5. Day of the fight, 160.
Michael Myers was?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, see, like, that's
He was huge.
That's crazy, dude. That's
a
massive.
lot. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole new, as a middleweight.
Yeah, exactly. That's massive.
Yeah, and I mean, I was kind of mad too when Jacobs did it. I mean, I was like, okay, that's a good tactic. I mean, to go in big against Triple G, because I think that's what helped him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But it's also, I mean, quite a bit on the maybe not dirty side, but it's definitely.
Well, I mean, boxing, you take every advantage that you can get.
I mean,
the only
true.
reason I wouldn't call it dirty now is because it's legal.
It's legal,
Yeah,
exactly,
like,
but
you
it's
can do
not.
It may not be fair or whatever the case is, but it's legal. So doing it is if it's within his power to do it and it gives him an advantage, he should do it. It's just
It's like frowned upon, but I mean,
Yeah.
totally legal. So
yeah.
what he had to forfeit something though, right? Like
Well, one of the sanctioning bodies already had a weight limit. The same thing that WBC is doing, I think it's like the IBF. One of those already has that, and so he wasn't competing for that belt,
okay.
right? Because he weighed in over that limit.
Yeah, and it just seemed crazy to me that he could just say, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna weigh in again."
Yeah,
Because who knows? Because he could have been. Jeez, I mean,
He could have been huge.
he could have been. I mean, he could have been a cruiserweight for that fight, for all we know. Because I mean, Jacobs is a big. He could have been 170, 175, maybe 180 for that fight.
Yeah. Did you guys? Speaking of which, did you guys see John Kavanaugh and Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Yeah, you watched
He's
some of that.
McGregor's coach.
Yeah, McGregor's coach was on Joe Rogan the day after the fight.
Was that the guy that-
surprised that he had his coach there the day after?
Yeah, the day after the fight.
greatest moment
He
in
was on
MMA
there.
history.
Was that like the jiu-jitsu coach that Khabib attacked, or was that someone else?
No,
No.
that was someone else. His
Okay.
head coach is a guy named John Kavanaugh. So he went on Joe Rogan the day after the fight, and they talked about the Floyd Mayweather fight, and whether or not they thought he could win, and all these different things. And one of the things I thought was funny was Kavanaugh had mentioned that he read through the rule book to try and find ways to bend the rules, like to think ways that he could stretch it to see if he would be able to do some things that wouldn't be considered illegal.
Like hammer fist?
Well, so he mentioned, like, for instance, holding the waist and stepping around and continuing to throw the punch while he's holding onto the waist. He said he couldn't find anything in the rule book that prohibited it. It didn't say anything. And he said, but as soon as we tried it, and they even brought in Joe Cortez to help ref their sparring sessions so that they can get a feel for how things would be ref. And he's like, but everything we came up with, as soon as we tried it, a referee
They
would
shut
tell
it
us.
down?
Yeah, they would shut it down and say, no, you can't do that. So he was
I mean,
like,
good on him for trying, I
Yeah.
guess. Because I mean, he definitely needed
he was
every
trying to
advantage.
he was trying to bend the rules.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, hey, they had to prepare every way they could,
So you're saying no to same-day weigh-ins?
I'm just saying I don't know if it's the healthiest thing for the fighter, because what it is it's really how they cut the weight, right? So the whole dehydrating down and not having liquid for the last 7 days, of your process, and then not having an opportunity to rehydrate up. So basically, when you dehydrate, it messes with your brain.
True. No,
right?
I mean,
and if you
it
don't
does.
get to rehydrate up, and then you go into a fight and you're already having.
Well, you can hydrate to a point. I mean, but it'll be for a 12-round fight. It'll be difficult. You're definitely not going to be hitting the weights or hitting the mark that you were before with that extra day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to see guys that are going to be fighting 10 pounds above, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think
If nothing else, I mean, I think if they're not going to do same-day weigh-ins, they should make you weigh in the day of, and you still have to be within.
Yeah, I think this is a good compromise, actually. I actually think saying, okay, well, we're not going to do same-day weigh-ins, but you'll be penalized if you weigh in more than 10%
Yeah.
of your
and
weight class. And it'll keep people, hopefully, to their true weight class, which is the point.
Of
That's the
weight
whole point of
classes.
weight classes, is
Yeah.
that you're in the right one, like that you compete with people your size.
And I mean, there's so many of them for that reason, to get guys to fight like right at the weight class that they, because I feel like we don't need so many weight classes.
No, but like Marcos, it's also handing out belts, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah, you
that
can't
means
win
you can
at
make
you
more
can't
belts.
win at 140. Let's win at whatever's in between.
Let's go down
you
to 35.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
make more champions. Let's do all that stuff.
We don't want to fight that guy. It's okay. Well, I mean, look at UFC. They're supposed to be making a 165 weight class for Nate Diaz to fight in.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean,
they're gonna make it just for Nate.
He's
maybe
the
not
only
just for
fighter.
Nate,
Well, they
but
made
I
a
mean,
weight
he's
class for-
headlining.
They made one for Rondo, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Or maybe
Yeah.
she just had the first belt in
Probably.
whatever weight
She was
class
the
it
first
was.
woman, right?
Yeah.
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 Speaking of which, she promotes Ferdinand. Carroll,
Yeah, she
right?
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does.
I was looking around. I thought maybe she'd be there.
There was somebody that looked like
She
her, but
hasn't
it
been
wasn't
there.
her.
I was gonna say I don't think she's been there yet. I haven't seen her at one.
Really?
A few of his fights.
Man,
Yeah.
his fight ended so fast, but the punches that he landed, they were
absolutely
nasty,
brutal.
man.
Yeah,
They-
he came
He's
out.
such a good fighter, though. I've known him for a while.
That fight was
seen spar-
ridiculous. Yeah.
I love watching him spar. Michael Myers was actually sparring Ferdinand a little bit for his fight, even though his guy was southpaw. He's fast. He moves well. He's a hell of a fighter. I mean, that's somebody that Golden Boy could
market.
yeah, absolutely. And he's got a huge following with
Especially-
the Armenian.
Yeah.
You know, Ferdinand's manager trainer Kenny was telling me, he's like, man, I sold 250 tickets. That's all they gave me. He's like, my phone's blowing up. I still got 100 more people that want to come. And
Oh, well, I mean, that's good.
Yeah,
So maybe
so-
they have someone.
yeah, the only problem is Ferdinand's been dropped a couple times in his last like 3 fights. He got dropped like each time in each fight. You know, but man,
I didn't expect
he's a
him-
high caliber fighter.
Yeah, and I didn't expect. I mean, the KO, the way it came, because he went all 6 rounds his last fight, right? Because he fought
That's
on
what I
the
heard. I didn't see it.
Facebook.
Yeah, he was on the Facebook card.
Yeah,
before,
and I mean, I'm not saying he looked bad by any means, but it was a decision, and then for him to come out in 49 seconds, like that's pretty stellar. Because the guy he fought went 6 rounds or 4 rounds with Aaron McKenna, who's another one of Golden Boy's good.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was really, really impressive. Yeah, that might be one of their guys that they can bank on.
I think so. And he's at what weight class was that? 54 that they fought in?
Super welterweight.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's
But let's real quick. We didn't talk about it since we're talking about how they build up fighters. This Belasco fight that they have, the Golden Boy Fight Nights every Friday. These are build up fights for these really good prospects. And when is a fighter ready to take on somebody challenging? And Shakur Stevenson, 8-0, fights a guy that's what 21-2. That's
21-2.
That's a
yeah.
lot of fights for somebody that's 8-0 to go up against somebody with 23 fights.
Never been knocked down. Never been knocked out.
And dismantled, handled him.
yeah, he absolutely did. Yeah,
Never been knocked down. Never been knocked out. He's schooled.
So is Shakur Stevenson? Are you saying that he should step it up?
Well, I don't know. That's how I'm asking you guys, man, because
That's
it
a
sure
good
seems
step.
like it.
Shakur Stevenson, though, he's also has a strong amateur pedigree. So what was he, a silver medalist?
I don't recall.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
so-
was silver,
yeah, so
but
he
I
was-
mean,
he was a silver
arguably
medalist.
should have been a gold.
Yeah. So arguably should have been a gold. So he's also sometimes I think Olympians take steps a little bit more drastically, just given their pedigree. You know what I mean? You see people who have Olympic medals and stuff like that, and they tend to get going in their career a little bit quicker than some people who don't have as strong an amateur background.
Yeah, and I mean, rightly so, right? I mean, if you're winning a gold medal, or a silver medal,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Best in the world.
I mean, Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He was number 2 in the world as an amateur, so he's gonna.
Olympians have proven
progress a little bit.
themselves.
not all
over
of
history.
them though. There's plenty of them that have stalled.
Solomon? No, I'm just kidding.
Other ones too. I mean, plenty of them
Did
that
you
have
see that, dude?
stalled.
Gamboa, was he for Cuba? Was he an Olympian?
Oh, I don't know.
I know he had to be an Olympian. I don't know if he won a medal.
Right.
But there's.
But then you have, I mean, Oscar.
Yeah, but
Ward
Oscar was maybe
and-
like 14-0 to 18-0 when he got his first belt.
Okay.
So-
Yeah.
But also an Olympian, right?
Yeah.
So,
But
but
I
I
mean,
guess
like-
he didn't get fast tracked like you're.
Yeah, but you look at Anthony Joshua. I mean, the guy's how many fights has he had? He's an Olympic gold medalist. He's got 3, 4 heavyweight world titles. You know what I mean? Like he's.
Yeah, Top Rank seems to get dibs on Olympians, huh?
Yeah,
Is that
I
what
don't
they
know.
have? Valdez too, who is my
Yeah.
favorite fighter right now.
Mikaela Mayer, but
Kayla Mayer.
yeah,
But yeah, I think Shakur, man. After seeing how Shakur handled that fight, I think he's ready to take on some bigger names.
yeah.
Well, like,
definitely.
what are you thinking?
Anybody with a belt.
Anybody with a belt?
A belt?
The lowest hanging fruit, basically in that weight division. He could probably handle it.
I agree. I mean,
As far as
Shakur
with a belt.
Stevenson, I mean, is really a boxer first and foremost, but he's knocking people out. So
Yeah.
I think, he can definitely step it up.
It's kind of like what Canelo's doing with fielding, Just take the low-hanging fruit at that next.
Yeah.
Let's just go, or what Mikey Garcia does
Yeah,
with,
but
with every belt.
But that puts you.
I'm just messing around. I'm just messing around.
I mean that puts you in the driver's seat a little bit, because you get the belt, you're like, I've arrived, and then you can start negotiating a little bit, and then you can also take some tune-up fights and I guess voluntary, what do you call it?
Voluntary
defenses.
defenses.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we'll
Canelo
see.
defenses.
But I mean, Shakur's exciting to watch, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming out to knock you out. He ain't coming. He reminded me a lot of
Has he gone the
Teofimo
distance since?
as far as his excitement in the ring.
Here, let's look at his record.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, I know he's 8-0,
since
but
he's gone pro, he's got 5.
only 5 KOs. So, yeah, he's had a couple decisions, couple unanimous decisions.
But they were probably what? How many rounds?
Unanimous decision on this one. Yeah, so yeah, he's had a few.
Well, he's fighting guys with decent records though. Like it's 16-1, 12-0, 16-4.
Yeah.
He's not getting
But
bum of the month club.
Yeah, it's like I said, when you're an Olympian though, or particularly someone who medaled in the Olympics, you kind of get to take the fast track to the high road. You know what I mean? Because we talked about it being a confidence builder as one of the steps. I mean, Shakur Stevenson is extremely confident. You know what I mean? He's an Olympic silver medalist.
You said too. I mean, right? 10-0. This is right around the time where
Yeah.
you should know if he's ready for better.
And you can. The funny thing is, remember we talked about this last week. That guy Solomon, who was an amateur, the number 1 ranked amateur, tried to
His
jump.
debut. Yeah.
Did you see that in his debut?
That was very. I mean, he'll be back, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
I'm
that's
sure.
Definitely not the way you want to.
But like he started out kind of like this, because look at his first dude was 3-2-1. So Solomon's I think was 2-1-1. So they're kind of starting above where most people start, but they're also standouts, right? So.
Was actually at that fight, his first pro his debut.
Yeah, I mean, like Lomachenko took a title shot in his second fight. Two-time
Lomachenko's
Olympic
a little
gold
different
medalist.
too, right? I mean, what was his 3 something? Almost 4?
What's that?
His amateur
It's
record?
like 390
Three-
something
oh,
and
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I've got it up on the wall
wall, yeah.
somewhere. It's up there, but yeah, it's
exactly.
ridiculous.
That's what I mean. So he's a standout, right?
Yeah,
He
but
does,
I think
you
for
could
the most
fast track
part,
him.
Olympians have proven that they're
Yeah.
going to be fine.
they get fast.
Because even like the ones that stall out, they start hot and they.
I mean, if he could fight a champion right now, I'd love for like fans to chime in and like who should
he fight?
who
Who should Shakur
yeah,
Stevenson
if
fight
you
next?
think Shakur's ready, and who could he fight next?
Who's the best person he could beat right now
Yeah.
with the belt?
Let's see. Super featherweight champions, huh? Here we go. Alberto Machado, Tevin Farmer. So maybe
I think
Alberto
Farmer would
Machado
be a
actually.
good one.
Farmer would be a good one, but see, I don't know, because I feel like experience would do him in there.
But yeah, so some of those guys. Stay
Somehow
away from the division above him and the division below him.
Below him, yeah, definitely below.
Somehow I feel
Stay
that he
away
has
from
more
both of those.
experience than Farmer though, from just going that far in the amateurs and
Yeah.
having that type of coaching
That's
all
true.
the time.
The whole, yeah,
Yeah, the important thing for him right now is to stay right here in this lane.
and to stay away from Adrian Broner. Did you see they were hanging out?
Oh man, no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a real quick way to.
But like, yeah.
Anytime
just-
somebody's hanging out with Broner, somebody like I think wasn't Spence hanging out with him, and people were saying he looks drunk.
yeah,
He sounded drunk too, though. He did.
Yeah,
That's when he did.
was right the Canelo.
That's when he did the interview about Bud Crawford and was like, "Who's he ever fought? I fought Kell Brook. I fought all these people. Who's he ever fought?"
Okay, so actually, now that I'm looking at this, so Frampton just won a belt, right?
Yeah.
So what do we? Santa Cruz, he's been pretty.
Rubber
inactive,
match,
right?
Rubber match with Santa Cruz would be probably the best thing for. That's what everyone wants to see.
That's
I
what
think,
everyone
right?
wants to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think Leo is. I mean, there's a fight at the Staples Center coming up.
Yeah, that's right. And on the December 1st, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about the pay-per-view.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Wilder fight.
Yeah, the Wilder fight.
So I mean, I think that would be. I mean, that might be. I mean,
These cats.
they
right
could
here.
probably sell that on their own.
Yeah, They were talking about these guys, actually. They were talking about Gary Russell Jr.
Well, that's
and Leo
the-
Santa Cruz, right?
Yeah, that's the mandatory, right?
He is
The
the
WBC,
mandatory,
yeah.
but even before the WBC came out and made him the mandatory, there was like a fantasy card that was released. I call it a fantasy card because I didn't believe it, but it was supposed to be like, a Boxing Insider said these are the matchups that they're looking at for the pay-per-view.
I would love
This
to
was
see
one, and the other one was Abner Mares versus Tank Davis.
it.
I want to see that.
I
I just
wanna
want to see
that,
Tank.
yeah.
Tank's got to get out there, man, because he needs to fight more.
But now, like Steve Kim on the Thompson boxing thing yesterday was saying that the card is looking a lot less. Like right now, they're talking about bringing Chris Areola back.
Oh, my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I heard about
Yeah.
that too. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So he's saying like, oh, they're trying to get Chris Areola and some other California natives to.
Chris Areola.
Well, dude,
Oh,
Mares
my
is a
God.
California native, and so is Leo Santa Cruz.
Well, I mean, I feel like Leo Santa Cruz, like, that is the Staples Center is home. Like,
Yeah.
that's where he has to fight there. So I think maybe a tune-up and then Gary Russell, since that is his mandatory.
Yeah, nobody ever cares who their mandatory is though.
But are they going to stack the undercard of the Wilder fight? Because that would be the perfect fight, right? Gary Russell and Leo Santa Cruz?
I think that would be a great fight for that undercard. I think Abner Mares and Tank Davis would be a great fight for that undercard. Those three fights together are an amazing pay-per-view. Yeah.
Totally agree. 'Cause
Make it happen. Call the people.
I will. I'll
Make
give him
it
a call.
happen.
I'll give him a call right after this. I'll tell him what's up. But yeah, so man, there are so many champions. Just looking at the BoxRec champions page is ridiculous. Like, no wonder we can't keep track of all this.
yeah, it's hard, seriously. You have to be
Shouldn't it
dedicated.
be just like one? Just one in each one.
Yeah, I know.
Just one in each.
One in each weight class.
But the funny thing is you see the guy's face 4 times.
Yeah, I know.
But you can see us 6 times.
You're like, I wonder who the champion here is at cruiserweight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
You know
man.
what's crazy is Gilberto Ramirez has been calling out Canelo Alvarez since he said he's moving
Yeah.
up. He's been calling him out, and I'm wondering
No way.
if that's a fight that would happen, that would ever happen.
I mean, I think Canelo would be fine taking it.
I think
Of course he would.
Canelo could
Yeah.
beat. I think Canelo could beat him. Actually.
Oh, yeah, he would.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, he would.
it wouldn't even.
I remember
It's a
even
money fight. Zurdo just wants the money.
last fight we were talking about Zurdo. He didn't look great in
Yeah.
that last fight, man.
Or the fights before it.
yeah,
like,
yeah. So like I look at it and I'm like, no, Canelo could take that belt. Canelo could take Gilberto. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He would give all these guys problems. To
I
be
mean,
honest,
we'll see.
He's gonna give Rocky Fielding problems. I would favor him against Gilberto. He would give Caleb Smith problems. He would give all those guys problems.
Well, you know what?
I wonder if he's trying to work his way up to Callum Smith, or if he's just trying to avoid Charlo.
That's
Yeah.
a good question because if he's moving up, that kind of raises his prestige, his legend. He's moving up. Triple G never moved up to 168.
Yeah.
And but then
But I
then
feel
you
like
have an
it's kinda
argument.
false, because it's like a false.
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
I don't know that it's avoiding Charlo so much as it is going where the money is.
Easier fights too, maybe.
They're easier fights. And,
I mean, the money's
going
gonna
to
be there
more.
for Canelo no matter what. It doesn't matter who Canelo fights, right?
Yeah, but that's actually, like, for instance, Caleb Smith brings a whole different audience to a pay-per-view than Canelo does because he has the UK behind him,
So
right?
Two of the biggest boxing followings, right?
Right, so, like,
if it's
yeah.
really about the money, then why is he taking Fielding instead of?
Because it's the same thing. Rocky Fielding's a completely different audience.
It's the same audience as Callum Smith, and if he's really trying to
is,
fight
but-
the best, then he should just.
But he
fight.
could gauge
Yeah.
how well
He's
he
never
does
fought
at the
at
weight class, that's
168.
true.
Yeah, he's never
True.
fought at 168.
and not only that, but the fan response, by fighting the
Yeah, Coach and I were actually talking about this on the last one, and the move to me makes a lot of sense just because Charlo is not a real pay-per-view candidate, and Canelo is not as strong as a Mayweather in pay-per-view sales. And what I mean by that is Mayweather could fight me, and it would go on pay-per-view, and people will buy it. True, right? Canelo's not like that. Canelo fighting nobody is not going to do well on pay-per-view.
because people want to see Canelo win instead of.
Yeah. So, like, Canelo fighting Charlo is probably not a very big pay-per-view because not a lot of people know who Charlo is.
Well, it's also dangerous.
It's also very dangerous.
Yeah.
Canelo fighting Rocky Fielding brings an entire audience
So what do
to
we
meet
think?
him.
He beats Fielding, and he looks dominator, knocks him out. Does he take Callum Smith next, or does he come back down to middleweight?
That depends. So it depends on who would win if Charlo fought Triple G, right? So if Charlo fights Triple G and win, let's say.
So based on what I said, right, that Charlo could be the one to beat. He might beat Triple G, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. Like, Triple G's gonna hit. He's gonna turn 40 soon,
He's
right?
gonna hit that
Yeah,
wall. If
that
he
becomes
hasn't
a
hit it
wall.
already.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he's taken so much damage from Canelo, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? Charlo knocks him out.
Charlo
beats
knocks him out. That makes him a pay-per-view draw,
Yeah.
right? So the second Charlo is able, if Charlo is able to step up to Triple G and knock him out, he would become a pay-per-view draw and a viable candidate for a pay-per-view with Canelo. But as he is, he's not really. He
No,
doesn't
that's
really
true.
have. He's not really a viable pay-per-view candidate for Canelo. But these guys are, just because the UK will pay to watch it, right? So
Yes.
like Gilberto Ramirez brings the same fan base. It doesn't do anything, right? Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
Him and Canelo essentially, effectively, Canelo brings everybody
It's
to
another Chavez Jr. fight.
Yeah, he
Every
brings
Mex-
everybody to it.
Every Mexican boxing fan will watch that, but nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or other hardcore
That's what I mean.
fans, but that's
Gilberto
about it.
Ramirez does. They share a fan base, so Canelo really brings all the money to the table.
I
These
think-
guys bring more to it.
And I think you're right, because that's kind of been the trend with the big fights lately. You know, is across the pond or whatever. You know, just
Yeah,
somebody that has a whole country behind them. You know, not
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
country versus country is kind of like how you market fights nowadays, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a whole different audience will watch Canelo fight Rocky Fielding or Caleb Smith than will watch him fight Gilberto Ramirez or Charlo. you
Yeah,
know?
so maybe just Charlo's time hasn't come yet. But I mean,
Not yet.
it could,
there
'cause
yet.
he's the man
They
in
might
charge of
just
Triple
avoid
G.
him for as long as possible, though, too.
So then who does Triple G fight? Because that's his mandatory,
Jacobs.
right? Jacobs again? But he could, I mean,
That's-
very
it's
well
just
lose to
hard.
Jacobs. He might have already lost to Jacobs, right?
Yeah, but the same thing could be said of Charlo. Right? You could say that Charlo, he may lose to Charlo also.
That's true.
But like
I mean, those are all fights I want to see. So, I mean,
Do you feel
I
like, do you feel like with the last Triple G Canelo fight, kind of the aura of invincibility and
off Triple G?
yeah, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
just completely shattered.
Yeah.
You know, now you're like, as you saw a little bit of it with Danny Jacobs, like standing up to him, you know, and taking his best punches, and
Not so much there because he still dropped Danny Jacobs, right?
yeah,
And, I mean, won the fight but on points. But even then, he still was, you know, Triple G, the monster, going into the Canelo fight.
yeah.
But after, the first Canelo fight, he was still like, I mean, he won, right?
Yeah, he did.
But after the second one, yeah, and it might just be age, and it might just be all the fights he's had already, but I'm not saying he's hit the wall, but he's getting very close to it.
I actually don't think it's either of those. I mean, age obviously has something to do with it, but I think that the fact of the matter is that's what happens when you go from fighting good fighters to fighting the other
Canelo's.
best people in the world, right? Like he was fighting before. The people he was fighting were not Danny Jacobs.
Yeah,
and then
through
he
no
stepped
fault
in-
of his own.
Yeah, no, it's not his fault. Yeah, I don't blame Triple G at all. But what I mean to say is that it's not really a surprise that it's not so easy to knock out Danny Jacobs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like everybody.
Well,
everybody
and
kinda
granted,
says,
I mean,
"Oh,
Danny Jacobs was 180 pounds.
yeah, but like everybody says, oh, well, Triple G's getting old or he's not. Yeah, no, it's just not easy to knock out Danny Jacobs. You
That's
know,
true.
like it's not easy to knock out Saul Alvarez. There's a big difference between those guys and virtually every fighter that Triple G ever fought before that, right?
yeah.
So I think when you get to the highest level of competition, it's hard, you know, like, and it looks hard when you do
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Triple G's best years were kind of not stolen from him, but, I mean, he was overseas for a lot of them. And by the time he was, big-time marketable here, the Canelo fight just didn't happen when it should have. And by the time it did,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
we
he never
saw-
got the
yeah,
Martinez
absolutely,
fight,
you're right.
right? He never got the Martinez fight. He never got a fight with Cotto.
Yeah,
Right, so he missed out on those
a
two.
lot in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, so
Martinez could come back and fight him now.
Yeah, he
Martinez
could.
After Chavez, who knows? dude?
Martinez. Well, first of all, I read that Chavez. I think Supreme posted this. That
Yeah, they
Chavez,
did.
That Chavez withdrew.
Withdrew
He's
from
not
the fight.
interested.
Oh,
Yeah, he's not
what?
interested anymore.
What?
And that's all he said. Like, yeah, we're not interested
Yeah,
in the
he just
fight.
said they're not interested anymore.
He's probably getting high, eating Cheerios or something.
Getting DUIs.
Dude,
yeah,
why
something.
would you not be interested in that?
Yeah,
If you-
who
if
knows?
you're-
That's
if
just
you're
like such a
Chavez.
random. Like, what else are you gonna do? Who else is?
You know what he should do,
No.
man? He should come still back because he's coming up at super middleweight, right? He said that was supposed to be a super middleweight fight, not a middleweight fight. He should come back and get Gilberto Ramirez. He said he still wants to fight in December.
He can't pick up a vacant
Yeah, I guess
and
yeah.
fight-
Pick up.
and
There's a lot of them.
Just
So
pick up somebody. Yeah.
and
And then you know what we would see? We would see Canelo Alvarez versus Sergio Martinez on pay-per-view.
yeah. Well, you know, I'd
Pay-per-view,
love
brother.
to see.
I mean, if he fought Ramirez, that would be a big
Yeah,
for the Mexican fans, you know. And I mean, if they did it in LA, I mean, holy cow.
I want to see him clean out 168, just because there's some good Benavidez and Caleb Plant. I think they're gonna pick up a belt at some point. I'd love
yeah.
to see Canelo fight those guys, and I just love to see him clean out 168. And
Yeah, why isn't David on here actually?
I mean, it's
Oh,
not
because he's in recess. Is that why? Because he's champion in
Maybe.
recess, so they put it as vacant.
vacant, I guess. Yeah.
but I just think it would add so much more to. I think it would shut a lot of people up about the Triple G fights being so close if Canelo went to 168
And cleaned it out.
Yeah.
It also adds to his pound for pound legacy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Trying the whole idea of trying to be the best pound for pound boxer of all time,
But
or not of all time,
But you know what? If Chavez doesn't want to fight Martinez, then Triple G should fight Martinez.
You should.
Triple G.
That's
should
a
fight
good kind of
Martinez?
fantasy matchup, and they're both kind of old.
Yeah. I mean, I think Triple G's got
Oh man,
3 fights top.
Yeah.
He's not that old.
No, he's
man.
not old,
He's
though.
he's
He's
not.
not.
He's,
I mean, no.
that's a
but
bad
he's
fight
been
for
taking-
Sergio.
That's a bad fight for Sergio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on. He was getting rocked by Miguel Cotto like 3 years ago.
But he
Like,
had
there's
no
no
legs.
way.
That's
He
true.
was
Yeah,
like
that probably
Lieutenant-
would be.
He was like Lieutenant Dan. He had no legs.
Yeah, that might not be the best fight.
That's
Actually.
not- yeah. Triple G's not that old. Just because Canelo makes him look bad for a couple fights doesn't mean he can't.
But
put-
really, I
put
mean,
it
I
on
say
somebody.
without the without the Canelo fights, Triple G still 2 or 3 more fights. So I hope he can cash out. And I mean, what do you think? Hall of Fame resume or now?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I mean, Canelo's is already also Hall of Fame.
I
so-
think the thing you hit the nail on the head with Triple G. I think his Hall of Fame resume, but as far as his marketability, it didn't peak with his peak performances, or with his actual prime,
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I mean, but there's really nothing he can do about it now except capitalize on what name he has and fight 2 or 3 big guys, and because at this point he could lose again and still
Yeah, he could.
make money. So
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Pacquiao, he could lose the next 3 fights and still make a ton of money. So,
oh yeah, I mean,
so I'm hoping, after this weekend with Crawford and his performance, I know Crawford's bigger than these guys, but Mikey's talking about Spence, and Loma's talking about Mikey. I want to see those 3 guys meet in the middle at some point and fight each other. I don't know that Loma's so much in the mix, but
well, he's fighting Pedraza, right?
Yeah, but then him and Mikey will have all the belts in the
So
division.
they'll have to fight each other, or somebody's gonna go up.
It would be so disappointing if Mikey decided to go up and fight somebody else after Lomachenko beats Pedraza. It just makes no sense. Like, it would. How do you avoid if you're Mikey Garcia?
But it wouldn't even look like he's avoiding him because that might be why he's been talking about the Spence fight because he knows he's not gonna get it now.
Yeah.
But come like Lomachenko beats Pedraza, then maybe Spence
That's
says,
what I
okay,
mean.
let's fight.
Like, let's say you've got 2 belts and Lomachenko's got 2 belts, and then you leave the division. How do you escape the fact that everyone is going to look at it and say you're running from Loma, right? Like, it just gives the appearance that he's running from Loma. Just unify the division. Like, he's already sort of
In a
jumped in
perfect
and
world,
took a belt
yeah,
up here.
that's what's
you
gonna
know?
happen, and they will fight each other. That's what I want to see.
I mean, they're all leading up. And the thing that's frustrating about it is Mikey will claim to want this fight, right? Like, if you ask him, he'll say this is what he wants. He wants this or he wants Errol Spence, right? So hopefully
It would make more sense for him to fight Lomachenko.
Hopefully that fight happens.
well, I mean, for me, it kind of makes the future look bright for boxing, is because It reminds me of the big four we had with Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard and
Hagler.
And I want to see that again with those guys because those guys are in the argument right now. They're pound for pound the top three, I think.
Yeah, so
and they're so close in weight class.
And I was talking about, I forgot who I was talking to about it, but I was talking about, like, everyone says, like, the 90s or the 80s, the golden age or whatever. And he said, no, man, like, this is the golden age.
That's what I said the other day. I said, I think we're in a golden age for boxing right now. I don't think it's peaking, but it's at a peak and continuing to climb. You've got all the networks putting it on. You got all these promoters putting a lot of money in.
Yeah.
You got and now you got, like, the perfect storm where you've got these three guys that are really close in weight class. Dude, nobody wants to see Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather. Mayweather doesn't talk about, hey, I'm the best fighter. No, he says, I want to make fucking 9 figures. Dude, nobody cares how much money you can make. We want to see the best fighters fight the best.
Yeah.
That's what makes the sport great.
And Floyd, obviously, and Pac, they ushered in this right now because I don't think, 2007, that wasn't really the golden era. That was kind of like the recession or whatever. But right now, dude, look at, like, the top of the heavyweights.
Yeah.
And, like, we have such good fighters.
And then you top it off with the heavyweight with Wilder and AJ clashing.
Yeah.
Potentially 2019.
And, I'm only 25, so obviously I didn't get to live through, all these fights. I didn't get to see Hagler Hearns when it was happening,
Yeah.
I had to ESPN Classic a lot of this stuff. But, like, this is, like, the second coming of it.
Totally. We waited a long time, man.
And since I've been watching boxing, right, like, this is the best year of boxing. Can you think of a better year than 2018? I can't.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it some, but I will say that in terms of, like, when you say nobody would want to watch it, that fight would still do 4 million buys on pay-per-view. It would be a monstrous fight. Pacquiao and Mayweather. Nobody wants to watch it. It would do 4.5 million
Nobody
buys
wants to watch it. We'll
tomorrow.
watch it, though.
Everybody's going to watch it.
Only for the fact that we're all sucker enough to believe Pacquiao that his shoulder was actually hurt. Yeah. And then we'll be like, no, now he's good, so it's going to be even.
But I don't know anybody who believes that. I think what you would think is that Floyd just might be old now. Right, like he just might be too old. Manny's been active, and Floyd hasn't been. He's in his 40s.
Old, so
yeah, that's true. But Floyd's older, and he's been inactive.
Pacquiao's been more active.
He has been active, yeah.
And he's not fighting MMA fighters; he's fighting actual boxers. So.
Yeah,
but they're just going to.
Conor was like a Golden Glove somewhere, right, in Ireland or something.
Floyd hasn't fought an actual boxer since Andre Berto. Yeah, so it's
2014.
Yeah, it'll be.
Has it been that long?
I don't know if it's 14. It might be 16 or something like that. But the point is like it's years and years since Floyd fought a real boxer, right? So like he's been inactive for a very long time. I don't count Conor McGregor. What is with the WBA, by the way? Do you guys see this column over here? What is going on? Maybe it's just me. A lot of these, like when you go up and down here, you're like. Trevor Bryan, right? Like
Shumenov is known. Bivol's, not that many fights.
Shumenov is known in a division that is clearly dominated by Alexander Usyk, though, right? Like Alexander is that.
Oh well, yeah.
Bivol is known, but he hasn't had a lot of fights.
Like 10 fights or something.
I mean, his time's coming. I think
Rocky Fielding.
I think Kovalev losing that fight kind of ruined Bivol's track to success because he was supposed to fight. Kovalev was supposed to win, and he was supposed to fight Bivol, and now...
Yeah, that's true.
Well, they still might, right, after the rematch.
Yeah. Brian Castano.
But
I guess the fact that Manny Pacquiao holds a belt is kind of ridiculous.
He's the most well-known right there.
Let's see, when did he
But according to BoxRec, the WBA belt seems to be the least, I guess, the bottom of the totem pole.
Like the least coveted?
Yeah.
Yeah, with obviously the green belt being the...
Yeah, the green belt being most in most cases, but... Yeah, strange.
All right, so one more. I guess we didn't hit the Super Series. There was a...
Yeah, well, DAZN had 2 cards. So they had Lewis Riston, right, fought and lost. And then also they had the World Boxing Super Series card.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you guys are following that, but anyways, the guy
I can follow it now that it's on DAZN. Yeah, now that it's on DAZN, I can actually watch it.
So, yeah, I mean, I stayed up till 4 in the morning to watch Inoue's fight, which, I mean, I was already tired, so I'm glad it ended as quickly as it
I was
did.
gonna say, well, yeah, you could have just watched the whole thing on replay.
Yeah.
in 20 seconds, 70 seconds, excuse me, the next day.
But then Tede, he fought last night or
Last night.
yeah, and so I don't know. Do we think he has a chance, or is this just kind of Inoue's tournament to lose? Because I mean, I don't know. Where do you guys have him in like your top 10? Because I mean, I have him pretty high.
Inoue?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the challenge with Inoue is a perceived lack of competition. Meaning people don't. How should I put this? Those weight classes don't get as much notoriety or promotion as the other weight classes, and so as a result, the names that are on Inoue's resume won't stand out to you. The names that welterweight and above will, right? So the challenge.
But that doesn't make them like lesser boxers, right? But
no, it doesn't make
for the
them lesser
people that
boxers.
have
I agree.
top 10 pound for pound lists.
I agree. It doesn't.
They
make them
know,
lesser boxers.
right? Like people that have top 10 lists, they know who Payano is, right?
Sure. Yeah.
They know that he'd never been stopped, right?
Yeah.
And he knocked
Well,
him
yeah.
out.
Plus, they'll say if you watch the World Boxing Super Series, they'll keep. They'll keep reiterating that Payano's never been stopped, right? So
I mean, I feel like Inoue is a guy that, I mean, he needs to come to America and on a full-time basis, right? So as soon as this Super Series is over, he needs to like come fly on this like the Superfly cards. I feel like his absence,
which won't exist anymore.
I mean,
there'll be no more Superfly cards,
and if 4 doesn't do like, I mean, they need,
or at least not with HBO. I mean,
not with HBO.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he can do it on his own, right?
Yeah,
And
sure,
he could do it with, but yeah, he needs to come over here because I think he's such a good fighter that's just not getting recognition because he fights in Japan. And same with Soren Visai. I mean, and part of it's the weight class and part of it's the
Soren Visai kind of almost looked like he avoided that last fight by taking the fight in Thailand that was on the, you know what I mean? Like he could have been on the Superfly card if he wanted to be. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the ball's kind of like in his court. I mean, he holds the biggest belt, like, and he said, "I want to fight here, and if you want to fight me, you have to come here to fight me."
Yeah, that's true. But he's fighting a lesser opponent, not on HBO.
True.
Right. So like basically, you're saying instead of fighting on HBO on Superfly, I'm gonna fight someone who's not as known and go off of HBO in order to do it.
Which he said was just to fight in his own country and bring them. But yeah, it could have been that too. But I mean, he won. So what's next? Like eventually he's gonna.
Well, I mean, he should still fight the Superfly winner.
Yeah, because there's gonna be a Superfly 4, I hope.
Plus, that last fight was the fight before this one. It was actually close. Like it was closer than it should have been. I think so.
These fights happened this weekend, right? Yesterday.
Yes, these are all yesterday.
So did that fight actually happen? Where a 27-3 fights a 4-0?
Yeah.
It happened.
And it went the distance.
Wow.
So yeah, and
this was the World Boxing Super Series fight.
Yeah.
This was Tete versus Aloyan.
That can't be right. 4-0, right? What is that?
Yeah.
There you go. 4-0. Well, now he's lost one.
4-1.
How does that happen? Talk about moving fighters fast, dude.
Yeah. Well, see, it didn't work out for him either.
That's weird.
It was kind of.
So do you have Inoue in the top 10 then, or no?
No, I don't. I wouldn't put him in the top 10.
Like not even in like the 10 or 9 spot.
No, I wouldn't.
How about Soren Visai?
Soren Visai, I would.
Where? I'm just curious. This is.
I mean, I guess I never thought about it because I never actually fleshed out a top 10. But Soren Visai, I would put in there. But Soren Visai has had greater success with bigger names.
Yeah.
On larger platforms.
Yeah, I mean, he beat Chocolatito twice.
Yes.
Or
you could argue about the first one.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, I thought he won
the first one's arguable.
I thought Chocolatito won
I thought
the
he
first
did
one.
too, but I mean,
he came back.
But he
strong,
still did
man.
really well. Chocolatito, you have to remember though that Chocolatito at the time was considered one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. The fact that Soren Visai is able to come in and even fight a competitive fight with him, I think, was surprising. The fact that he beat him the second time the way he did is huge.
Right. Well, and the first time, obviously, like it was close enough that they gave him the decision. So
yeah.
But, the second time he just knocked him out. I mean, I think a lot of it was, Chocolatito topped out weight-wise, you know?
Yeah,
Because
that's
even
true.
against Quadras, he struggled, right?
Yeah, he struggled against Quadras.
So, I mean, I think he could have either gone back down, which is what he should do now, is go back down and fight his last fights.
Yeah,
I
but I think Soaring Visai's in there.
Yeah.
I think he's in the. I mean, I haven't actually thought of who the 10 would be, but Soaring Visai's in there.
All right, well, I'm going to get back to you, right? Because the forums that I frequent, it's the pound-for-pound list is kind of like what we base everything off.
Okay.
So every quarter we do, like, everybody submit their top 10, and then they take all the votes, and then they post it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just battle it out and discuss it, like, hey,
Yeah.
who's your top 10? And
Well,
we just submitted ours, so I just gave it some thought.
okay.
So, yeah, I'll ask you for yours later. But
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, obviously in the top 10, not in this particular order, but pound for pound is going to be Bud Crawford. It's going to be Lomachenko.
So the biggest argument that we get there is, like, the top, like, the 3 spots, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
people put Lomachenko at number 1, like, fairly often, right? But
Which is understandable, but okay. Yeah,
and then
go
people
ahead.
argue for Bud at 1 or 2, and then Mikey
Okay.
Garcia at 3.
Mikey would be in my top 5.
Top
Yeah.
5, okay.
Yeah, he would be in my top
How
5.
about you, Coach?
Um,
Well, let's just go 1, 2, 3.
yeah, I'm good with the 3. I mean, I've seen some of the other guys fight, but it'd be hard for me to put a top 10 list.
Because I think from
It's
5
short.
down, it's whatever, you know.
But I think
Yeah, I
Lo-
guess
Loma-
so. I
I
mean-
think Crawford 1, Loma 2, Mikey
3.
3, and
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think it's there an argument with Mikey being at 3 because he's like you said. I mean, if he doesn't fight Loma next, then I mean, or at least at that weight class, you know, if they're in the same one,
Yeah.
he doesn't move up in that list, you know.
Yeah, I think definitely you could have Canelo up in the
Yeah, like maybe
up
5
in
or
the top
6.
10. Yeah, probably 5 or 6, something like that. So, I mean, I would almost make a case for Deontay Wilder, and you may say, why Deontay Wilder and not Anthony Joshua? And
Yes.
I have a hard time for putting heavyweights up there in general, just because I feel like. But Deontay Wilder, like, he was 213 pounds when he fought Luis Ortiz. He was barely even a heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? Like, he's out there knocking dudes out like Luis Ortiz, weighing 213 pounds. He can almost fight cruiserweight, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's
no,
like,
that's
like
fair.
so when you're talking about pound for pound compared to Anthony Joshua, who's massive compared to Deontay Wilder, right? And when I say massive, Deontay Wilder's tall. He's just not heavy, right? He's not a heavy dude, right?
Right.
So, like, if I were to put a heavyweight in there, I would actually go Deontay Wilder before, for that reason. But I think
So I personally don't have any heavyweights in mind.
I think you have a hard time making a case for a heavyweight.
Yeah,
as a
and
pound
if
for
you-
pound
Yeah.
guy.
And pound
Unless
for
it's a guy
pound,
like
I have
yeah.
Usyk.
I don't think
but not.
Usyk makes sense though because he's a cruiserweight and he
Yeah.
can go up and conquer heavyweight.
I don't think you can be on a pound for pound if you haven't fought in more than one division. You got to go at least 2.
Unless
But
you're
here's-
just like absolute.
But here's why it's fair. Because look, like if you look at Deontay Wilder and he's 213 pounds and he's fighting a guy like who's 270 pounds, that is a bigger discrepancy than any one fighter would have to deal with,
Yeah.
right? Like Canelo does not have to fight a guy who is literally
that would be him fighting
Yeah.
almost a heavyweight.
Yeah, Canelo will never have to fight a guy who is literally 50 pounds his superior, right? Deontay Wilder does have to do that, okay? When he weighs in at 213 pounds and he's going to fight some dude who's 260, that's a big discrepancy. That's like a big difference. And so it's why I think that even though he can't change weight classes, he has to deal with bigger discrepancies than any of these other fighters have to deal with. So I think for that reason, because he's a small heavyweight, I can kind of understand if someone wanted to say Deontay.
So where's he at on that list then?
He'd have
like
to be
down
top.
at the bottom, yeah, like
Yeah.
like he would be down there. But I also think that
That's good.
conquering Luis Ortiz is like a milestone. That's a big achievement.
But then Joshua, I mean, beat Klitschko, so
That's true, but he's also the weight discrepancy isn't the same,
That's
right?
true.
Because that's what I mean. Like when you talk pound for pound, you're talking about
Well, that's like Rocky
essentially just-
Marciano, basically.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
smaller heavyweight beating up the
Beating up every-
Yeah,
yeah,
when you
beating up
when you
these
talk,
bigger guys.
that's what pound for pound is all about, right? Pound for pound is saying like, what are my skills like
compared to
other people if we go through the weight classes. So like, I understand Deontay Wilder for that reason. He has to deal with more weight variance than someone like
Yeah,
Chocolatito.
they have to fight each other eventually, and one of them will be in the top 10 once they do, because eventually one of them's gonna have 4 belts, right? But
yeah, but even then, like, I would have a hard time making a case for Anthony Joshua because he's just a big heavyweight and has always been a big heavyweight. If Deontay beats him, it's he beat a guy who's 40 pounds heavier than he
yeah.
is.
Well, it's hard too because you said like you should have to fight in more than one division, and most of these guys do, right? Like they'll start somewhere and move up, or
Yeah, well, usually.
but it's hard in heavyweight, right? Because
Yeah.
like where do you go from?
No.
Because you can only go down.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the arguments for pound's always been somebody smaller, and then they just keep moving up and up and up. So.
Yeah, but that's when you think about Deontay Wilder, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, because
right?
if
he's
he
smaller,
was,
but he's fighting.
Yeah,
massive
because
men.
if he was lighter, and then you compare the weight discrepancy, you're talking about 3 to 4 weight class difference.
yeah, easily,
Right. So-
easily a
So
3.
yeah,
to 4
he
weight.
he could be on that list. I mean, that's a good argument for having him on the
Yeah,
list.
I think
that
that's
is that's very fair. I actually haven't heard anyone even say that. It's
Good
always
job.
well,
about
it's an original take.
it's yeah.
That's
good.
that's a
Heavyweights,
Chris
pound for
Fitzgerald
pound,
exclusive.
one weight class.
One weight class.
but that's how you can do it. I think that's how I think
If
you
you
can
had
do
to,
it is
yeah.
by being a small heavyweight who's fighting much larger heavyweights.
I mean, I don't think Wilder and Joshua are like far from the top 10, but like I said, it is hard to justify putting him in there.
yeah,
Especially because
I understand Usyk though.
Usyk for sure.
Yeah,
Especially because he might. I mean, he could very conceivably move up to heavyweight and compete
Yep.
and do well.
and then I guess if Floyd's coming out of retirement, he'll
He's-
go back in there. No, I'm just. I'm just.
No.
So okay, so then where do we put like? So let's say Spence.
Spence, not to me.
Nowhere in the top 10.
No, I don't think he's in there. Well, because again, like I said before, I actually think Bud is a more skilled fighter. I think Bud belongs in there above Errol.
Above him for sure.
And Errol Spence struggled with, like you said, the likes of Kell Brook and stuff like that. And he hasn't had. See, the thing that Sean Porter has, for instance, Sean Porter actually has fought Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
Adrian Broner,
And
right?
beat.
And he's fought, yeah, and he's beat. And even the fight with Thurman, it was very competitive, right? So like Sean Porter's fought these guys. Danny Garcia fought all these guys, right? Errol Spence hasn't. He just hasn't done that, right? So like, and
True.
for whatever reason, he hasn't faced any of those guys. They're all members of the same stable, but he hasn't fought any of them. And you could say, well, Bud Crawford hadn't either, which is fair, but Bud Crawford also unified a division and won a belt at 130 and like all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
and now he's coming up and taking on welterweight. So that's why Bud makes it to me, but Errol doesn't.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like Bud's fought all the best people that were willing and able because, you know,
Yeah.
promotional issues. But
Yeah, Errol still has something to prove to me.
I agree. He is in my top 10, but
Where?
8,
Okay.
which I mean, I think is
I think he's above.
Is Triple G still in your
Porter?
top 10?
yeah,
Yeah, where's he at?
6.
6? Is it just behind Canelo?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah,
Look,
Porter,
I can
Porter's not
see
in
your
there,
top
huh?
10. I don't
Can
know
you?
if you see. Well, no, I'm just like you can see. We're on the same page.
Porter's not in there, right?
No.
He's like.
I actually
13,
I don't think
14,
I have any
15.
welterweights in there, to be quite honest.
Except Errol
Except Errol, yeah.
I kind of feel like.
and Bud.
And like, I mean,
Bud's
for
in there,
my
right?
last top 10,
Is Bud in there?
yeah, he's number
Okay,
one.
I was gonna say. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. What do you mean? There's
I
no?
kinda
No,
feel
we're talking
like-
about like 5 down now.
Oh, I got you.
I kind
got
of
you.
feel like Porter would could.
I feel like,
beat
yeah,
Spence.
yeah.
To be honest
Oh,
with you.
Probably.
would be a competitive
I mean,
fight,
It would
I
be a
think.
really good fight, but until he does it, like
The size won't matter. See, because unlike with Bud Crawford, where you're like, hey, is the size going to be a big difference? Sean Porter was competing at 165 against Alexander Usyk as an amateur. Like the dude is, you know what I mean? The guy is, the size difference won't matter.
yeah, I feel like Sean Porter just doesn't get the respect or the love that he deserves because,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He should be on your list.
yeah, you know, to be honest, I don't
Especially
know why.
after beating Danny Garcia.
I you know what? You're right.
And
he
then
should have
he-
been. Especially like I could have snuck him in like the 10 spot.
I mean, I think he deserves it more than Spence. You know.
yeah,
I think you can make an easier case for it. He's fought better
that's
competition.
true. Yeah, to be honest, yeah, I totally agree. Not like the eyeball test. Like I think Spence is gonna have like a higher. In the end, he's
Yeah.
gonna be better. But right now, like
Well, yeah.
I feel like Porter should have been, probably in there somewhere. I put Santa Cruz in my top 10 before.
Okay.
Is that a fight that could happen?
Before Gary Russell?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Leo Santa Cruz?
It's hard for me to. So Gary Russell is just so inactive. If you're fighting once or twice a year, it's just really hard to.
That's what I told Coach actually too.
Do you disagree? I mean, sure, he
No.
looks awesome when he wins, and he wins, but he's just fighting once or twice a year. So it's really hard for me to gauge a guy that's only fighting once or twice a year.
Dude, Leo stays busy and he fights. I mean,
And right now
who's
it's
he
like
fighting? Frampton and then
Mares twice.
No, I
yeah,
agree.
So
Right now,
He's
I
not
think
fighting
his
stiff.
longest period of inactivity, right? Because he hasn't fought since.
well, that's like
Since
his
JoJo.
average, right?
No, that's Russell. Right?
Oh, who
But
are
I'm
you talking about? Oh,
Santa
you're talking about
Cruz,
Leo.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, he fought Mares this year, so
Yeah.
and he's gonna fight in December probably, most likely in
Hopefully.
at the Staples.
I hope so.
And I mean, I don't think he should fight Russell yet. I think he should take. See, he can't fight Frampton either because
Well, like, yeah, it's kind of that one's kind of strange just because he's not considered the best fighter in his division even.
so he's gonna have to take.
But neither is Errol Spence.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
I think those right now that's the most interesting from 135 to 126
Yeah.
is just like the juiciest. There's so many good fighters that are just like barely like missing each other and like they need to fight.
Yeah.
And I mean below that too, 118 and all that. But right now like 130, 135, 126, there's a lot of talent there. And I think like Oscar Valdez is going to be once he comes back.
Yeah, he's
a
got to.
big-
Who's he training with?
Canelo's
Oh, okay.
yeah. So we'll
So
see.
he's
I
gonna
mean,
be training in Mexico then, huh?
well, he lives in Mexico, doesn't he?
Yeah, he was who was it?
but he's always
Michael
training here.
Dutchover was a sparring partner for Oscar Valdez. He said that he went down to Mexico for a few weeks actually.
Yeah,
Wow.
Sinaloa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's lives and trains out of there, and he just comes here because he fought on the Mexican Olympic team twice.
Yeah.
So and yeah, I mean, I think Valdez is gonna be in my top 10 here really soon. Not just because I like him, but I think he's gonna make a lot of noise.
I think
at
that's
20
good for his career at this point, the change up, because he's got a lot of skills he can pick up.
Somebody needs to teach him defense.
Yeah, because I mean, if he develops some defense and a few other things, I mean, that guy wants to rip your head off with every single punch. I've never seen anybody.
Who loads up that many shots?
Every shot.
But it's crazy that he goes the distance doing that
In
and
sparring,
still looks
in
good.
a fight,
Yeah.
it's crazy, man.
Yeah, that dude just has crazy potential. I think it might be a good move because if he can work on his defense a little bit, he won't be getting his jaw broken, and
Yeah.
he puts it all out there. Like, and that's why people love seeing him. I mean, he's so exciting. I drove from New Mexico or almost Texas to LA to see him fight. So we left on Friday night or Friday evening, drove almost 18 hours, watched him fight at the StubHub, and drove back the very next morning. Like, that's how exciting that dude is. Like, I mean, he just needs to work on a little bit of defense, I think, and maybe just not loading up every single shot. Because eventually, he's not going to be able to do that. He's going to get punished for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's got a lot of potential.
Is he's staying in the same weight class, or he's moving up a little bit?
No, he should stay because he really can't move up a whole lot. I mean, if he goes up to, he's got dangerous divisions above.
That's actually the problem with all these weight classes that are floating around each other is you move up or down, you're running into somebody serious, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
like you're trying to take over a division
because you're not
that
going
has
to
like a pound for
130.
pound. Yeah. It's like, that's
What's
the
crazy
hardest
too is
thing.
that he's, with his Olympic like pedigree, you'd think he'd be more of like a point base, like, all right, I'm gonna protect myself a little bit. And
Yeah.
But now, I mean, he just goes out to finish the fight. So yeah, I mean, I think he's got out of everybody like the biggest upside of guys that maybe we're not talking about so much. Oscar Valdez.
Yeah. I think
he's taking time to heal.
Yeah, I mean, he broke his jaw, but he should be back. I mean, I think he's back in the gym. I don't know if he's taking any contact yet, but obviously you want that to heal all the way. But once he
Yeah.
comes back, he's going to make a lot of noise. And, I mean, I think any of those guys in his division would be a kick-ass fight.
yeah, he's a super entertaining dude.
Yeah.
For sure. That last fight was
I didn't expect him to
incredible.
fight Quigg the way he did, and he,
Yeah.
I mean,
Quigg
took it
being
to
as
him.
big as he was
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
I mean, I was kind of worried. I was like, oh, you know what? That might have been too soon, but, I mean, he took it to him, and he won the fight, so. What else you got, Coach? What were you gonna say?
That's it, man. I'm ready to.
You're ready to call
Call
it?
it,
You had a
man.
long day.
That's been a long weekend, I think.
Yeah,
But,
Yeah,
it's
right.
fun
Sleep.
weekend. Boxing life, man.
Yeah, it's a
Watch it,
24/7.
participate in it, yell at people,
Yeah,
throw more jabs.
throw more jabs for real.
We better
Hey, throw more jabs. We
throw
need a
more
t-shirt.
jabs. They don't mean anything.
Oh, that would be a good T-shirt,
Um,
dude. Throw more jabs.
Yeah.
If you want to win, throw more
they,
jabs.
they don't mean anything. Oh, man.
Sweet. Thanks
Well,
for having me, guys.
Of course, man.
It's been
anytime.
a pleasure.
I never said jabs don't mean anything.
No, I know. I'm just messing around.
Yeah, man,
I can
thanks
find
for-
some comments for sure
Yeah.
that say that, though.
No, man, thanks for coming. Appreciate
absolutely.
it, man.
Anytime,
Anytime,
guys.
man.
Awesome.
Anytime, man.
Right
Come on
on.
down. We love talking boxing, you know.
I do too, man.
Well,
I think
We're-
we all do, right?
We're putting Coach to sleep though, so we have to.
All right, next time, Chris, I'm gonna get your top 10 too. All of
Yeah.
it.
Well, once I start to think through it, like once you ask, all of a sudden it starts.
It seems
to,
like ours
it's
kind of
easier
coincide.
than. Yeah, like it's easier than.
We'll get it. We'll put it
Okay.
on YouTube, and then people can comment and compare theirs.
You just want people to trash me on YouTube. You just get a kick out of it when people are like, "That guy's an idiot."
I couldn't tell if they were talking about me or you. They said the guy on the right, but it was like you were on my right.
Yeah,
but
they're
if you're
right,
watching
you're
it,
left. Who
yeah.
knows?
It was definitely the
So-
right of the screen.
as long as they're commenting, it's all good.
Yeah, man.
Sounds good.
Well-
More Charlie's.
Zelenoff, yeah.
videos.
Oh, man.
Hey, if he calls, man, you gotta invite him in.
Dude, you know
That's
what?
Quality
I'll
footage.
I'll say this: if that guy calls and wants to get in here, I'll beat the shit out of him for free, and
free.
he can get his ass in here any day.
Dude, give him Michael Myers. Let him whoop him.
For
Oh,
free.
dude. But the one thing, you know, I don't want to talk about that dude anymore. Like, he should be in jail. Like, he's assaulting
Yeah,
people.
he's
Yeah,
assaults people.
absolutely.
He
I don't know how
assaults
he's gotten away with it.
And he doesn't deserve to have us talk about him. But if he did show up here, I'd fucking break every bone in his
Give him
body.
your best.
I wouldn't just box him. I'd break his arms.
You should. Yeah, that guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can I say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
You
wouldn't
guys
just
can
box
say
him.
whatever you want, but I can tell Coach is tired because he's getting irritable now. You know what I mean?
No,
All right. Well, it's
That's
been a good one.
All right, guys. Well, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be back with you next
Dude,
week.
Supreme Boxing.
And
Gotta give 'em a
Supreme
shout out.
Boxing, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
Supreme Boxing. Follow us Instagram at Supreme Boxing. And yeah,
Facebook, same thing.
Facebook, same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of kick-ass content on there, so we always keep it up to date. So yeah, follow it.
Yep. All right, guys. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Yeah. Good night.